Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Glendora City Council for Tuesday, January 10th, 2023, and it is 6 p.m. I will announce that all council members are here and present. Even the TCU fan, she was able to bring herself here tonight. So I promise I wouldn't say anything, but I had to. Okay. If we're going to be going into closed session, and Mr. City Attorney, if you could read the closed session title.
I'd be pleased to do so, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and any who may be joining us in person or virtually. Notwithstanding the fact that we have two items on the closed session agenda, staff is asking that we continue the second item. We've received some additional analysis and information that will change the recommendation that ultimately will be presented to the council. So tonight, we're only going to deal with the closed session involving real property negotiations. The authority to meet in closed session is Government Code Section 54956.8. And we will be meeting and conferring with the city council regarding that certain real property commonly referred to as 1762 Dale Road. The assessor parcel number for this property is printed in the closed session agenda, and we will be discussing with the council in closed session the price and terms of payment for this property. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Bill. At this point, I would open public comment for those in attendance, but I can see we don't have any public comment in attendance. Is there anybody on Zoom wishing to speak?
I am seeing none, and I have no emails as well.
Okay, with that, I'll close public comment and convene us into closed session at 6:02. We're sorry.
That's why you're my favorite, chief. Hey, my comment to my colleagues was, I think TCU went a little farther than Ohio and SC, so I don't think there's anything further to discuss.
To adjourn our closed session and reconvene back into open session at 7 PM and ask Bill to report out the closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, joining us in person and virtually. The city council had only one item on its closed session agenda. That involved real property negotiations. The property that was the subject of negotiations has a common street address of 1762 Dale Road. The parties have been in negotiations regarding the purchase and sale of that property. The parties now have reached agreement in principle on the purchase and sale of the property. A purchase and sale agreement will now need to be drafted consistent with those terms and conditions and will be brought forward at a future public council meeting for consideration and possible action. The second closed session agenda item has been postponed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, with that, I'd like to ask everybody to please stand. Our invocation is going to be led by Doug Farrell from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, followed by my friend Jackson Thiel will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee this evening. We're thankful for the opportunity we have to meet as a community. We're thankful for the rain that thou hast blessed us with. We're thankful for the opportunity to see our green foothills again. We pray, Father, for thy blessing to continue, that the rain might be able to fill the reservoirs and fill the underground storage of this valley, that we might be able to continue forward without the parched ground that we've been used to. We're thankful, Father in heaven, for those who make this community great. We're thankful for those who volunteer and those who give of their time and talents. We're thankful, Father, for those who educate the children of Glendora, and we're thankful for the first responders and those who are here when we're in need to comfort us and help us. We thank thee, Father, to bless this meeting tonight, that there might be a feeling of civility and in building, that we may continue to build the city of Glendora to be the great place in this Southern California Valley to live. We're thankful for the opportunity to meet, for freedom to meet in this type of a meeting and govern ourselves. We pray now, Father, that thou wilt bless those who will present at this meeting and those who will preside, that they might do so in accordance with the laws and regulations, and that we may be able to move forward as a city. We pray for these things, Father, and thy blessings to continue in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, anybody besides me chasing your trash cans down the street at 11 o'clock last night? Yeah, okay, we got through the first storm with the new trash can, so, and I think we're in good shape. We'll get through the next one. At this point, does anybody wish to reorder any of the agenda items? Okay. At this point, I'd like to open public comment and invite any members of the public to address the council. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. If you're in attendance here tonight, please fill out one of our speaker cards. You can get them from Kathleen up here. And once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. After that, we'll ask if there's anybody on Zoom that wants to speak at public comment. So tonight, I've got one speaker card from the audience. So Josina.
I can't be the only one. Yeah. Thank you, council, for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Joe. I'm the president and CEO of the Glendora Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to kind of go over some upcoming events that we're doing and different things. So to start off on Thursday, we're going to have our lunch mixer at Round Table Pizza, which that one, besides enjoying the great pizza, you can hear from me and where I talk about all the great laws and regulations that well, not all of them, because I don't have that long. Laws and regulations that started on January 1st. Now, I'm not giving any legal advice or anything, just kind of reading what I've found on Cal Chamber and stuff like that. But so if you want to come out, if you're a business, you want to know all the rules, everyone's not, messing up on, please join us. Then on the 20th, we're having a Chamber 101 Zoom meeting where I kind of talk about what we do for new members, existing members, and people that just want to know what we do. So that's on the 20th. And then on the 24th, I'm excited to do this. This is the first time we're going to do it. We're doing it with the Glendora Police Department. We're going to do a Glendora Business Watch Forum, where we're just going to, hear from the PD on what's going on in regards to business crime, what businesses can do to protect themselves, and a whole bunch more. So if you're interested in that, that is January 24th at 8 a.m. at America's Christian Credit Union, and it is free. So anyone could be there. We just have to RSVP so we know we have enough space. One thing we are doing right now is we are accepting nominations for the 2022 Glendora Citizen of the Year Award. Glendora residents, community groups, and more have until when is it? January 27th at 5 p.m. to submit those. We will be celebrating that in late April, but since 1948, and no, I wasn't there, we've been celebrating that every year, which in 1948, it was Charles Gordon, for those that may or may not know. So if you know a Glendora resident that is deserving, like Councilmember Davis was not that long ago, please let us know. Then also, not chamber stuff, as a band dad at the high school, the Glendora Tartan Band is having their Bandorama this Friday at 7 PM at the Haw at Citrus. So if you want tickets, you can go on the Chambers site. There's the information there, or just let me know. It's a great event. I was in it back in the day in high school, so not that long ago. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Next up, I got, is it Mike Cott? Roth? I'm sorry. I think you and I had the same writing teacher in school, so, okay, Mike Roth.
Okay, cool. I got this written down here. Okay. Yeah, okay, hi, I'm Mike. I live here in Wabash. So I wanted to talk on behalf of the antique streetlights. I understand, there's an effort to try to get them turned back on. So I just wanted to come and speak in support of this. I'm very thankful that this is being pursued. And I fully support these lights being turned back on. First, I think one thing that's important to point out is that everyone in the city who has street lights pays for tax for their lights. To me, this is not a punishment. This is a community service, like the fire department or the police department. Second, not only would lamps add curb appeal to our historic neighborhood, but lights add an extra measure of safety and security. With the commuter train coming, which I'm very excited about, so our neighborhood soon, brightly lit streets will also help deter any possible delinquent activity that can sadly accompany areas surrounding train stops on an evening walk to the downtown to downtown Glendora. It would be nice to see if that person coming towards me is a stranger or a neighbor, or if that animal coming towards me is a dog or a coyote, or give emergency vehicles proper visibility. This is a true story. Not long ago, I saw an ambulance racing down my street, and it needed to come to a full stop and shine a light on one of the street signs. It was too poorly lit to read, obviously. And to say that it gave me pause would be an understatement. But beyond that, and on a more positive note, beautifully lit streets will also help attract foot traffic of shoppers and commuters to our future train station and to our downtown business district, which benefits the entire community. Ultimately, lighting our lamps is a declaration that we care about this community. Dimly lit streets lined with broken lampposts communicates apathy. I feel like it begs the question, if we don't care what our community looks like, then why should anybody else? To me, the top line is beautification of our neighborhood, and the bottom line is safety and security. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Okay, I don't have any other speaker cards. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Okay, do we have anybody on Zoom?
I am showing no one. If anybody on Zoom would like to speak, if you can please click on the raise icon. I have none, and I have no emails as well. I do have 2 public comments, but they're for item number 4.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment, and I'll bring it back to council for statements. Who wants to go first? David, you got it.
Short, just want to say Happy New Year and look forward to serving the community and continuing to do good things and doing more good things. So thank you.
Great. Karen? Oh, Randall?
Mr. Mayor, thank you and welcome. I also want to ditto what has been said. This is going to be a great year, and we're starting off good with a lot of rain. The goal line, or the L line, is really doing well. As most of you have seen, the bridges are being seen. Most of the false work is gone. We're going to have to extend it on down on Lone Hill to the 28th of this month. The rain has pushed back some of the work that they were going to do, but that will all of that steel false work is going to be done by the end of the month. So that's going to be great, and just appreciate each and every one of you for being here, and it's going to be a wonderful year. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Michael?
Thank you. Cleanup. So happy New Year to everyone. We have been very busy in the COG, the Council of Governments. We have been actually doubling up on a lot of our meetings. Lots going on over there, a lot of capital improvements and a lot of issues with the homeless moving forward to enhance those programs and things of that nature. I know Gary on the housing and all that, you're doing quite a bit of work over there. I have a bit of a good news. I got a phone call this morning from the broker over on that's representing the property on Lone Hill and Route 66, the old flag station. February 8th, it's due to close escrow, and there's a plan to have a medical facility there. So once and for all, that's going to get cleaned up. It's going to look beautiful. I saw some renderings of it this morning, and it looks absolutely amazing. It's going to be nice to have a nice entrance to our city. So thank you.
And I'd just like to share with everybody that over the holidays, we got some good news. I think it's okay to talk about the grant that we got from the federal government in reference to our urban trails. So the city received a $5 million grant in order to help us continue. And I think we have enough money now to complete the San Dimas Wash Trail. Yep. So you'll be able to walk from Louis Pompey Park down to Gladstone and on across to the end of the trail down there soon. And on another note, we have a variety of different hats we wear up here, but we also got good news that we got the first trench of funding for the Azusa Regional Wilderness Park. And for those of you that are aware of the old El Encanto restaurant that was up Azusa Canyon, that area there's been plans in the works for a number of years to build a big regional park there. And so the first part of the funding came through. It's $14 million, which is for phase one. It's going to be about a $60 million project by the time it's finished. There's going to be a nice big regional park. I like to compare it to something like Pudding Stone, where we'll be able to go up there. Right now, it's all pretty natural, but there'll be all kinds of picnic areas and a lot of things for people to do. So that was good news that we got that over the holidays. So that's it. If there's anything else, Adam?
Just a couple more. We talked a little bit about water this evening. We received word that in last month, our target was to save 20%. We saved 27% last year on our water consumption. So big thank you to the Glendora businesses and residents. And then also in terms of rainfall, some areas received more than others, but we've received approximately 3.5 inches of rain the past 24 hours, about 5.7 inches over the last 7 days. So again, rain is in the forecast for Saturday through Monday. Haven't had any significant issues, some fallen trees, some trash cans that made their way down streets. So if you see something, please let us know. But overall, we've gone through this storm pretty well, with the exception of some of our facilities, which rained a little bit on the inside of them. So working on some of those, including the main library. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 4, which is the first of 2 public hearings we're going to have tonight. This is the first one's a public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the Glendora Municipal Code Title 21 regarding outdoor dining standards in the Glendora Village. And at this time, I will open the public hearing. And then Alicia Saniga.
Suniga,
Hey,
yes.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about
Okay,
yourself?
You're going to give us a report tonight.
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Tonight I will be presenting the proposed ordinance to amend the Glendora Municipal Code that addresses outdoor dining, section 21.06.070. Next slide, please. Okay, so as many of us are familiar, in 2020, due to COVID-19 and health orders, restrictions were put into place, which affected local businesses and affected the way they conducted business indoors. In quick response to this, the city had outdoor parklets installed to give restaurant owners additional space that could be utilized to operate business, since indoor dining was not permissible under the state's health orders. So on the left there, we have what the temporary parklets used to look like. On the right, what they currently look like today. Finding them to be well received and a positive addition to the Glendora Village, the city moved to make the temporary parklets permanent fixtures. Now that the parklets are permanent fixtures, the city will need to go ahead and establish regulations, as well as amend the existing municipal code, also known as the GMC, to include outdoor dining and those regulations. Next slide, please. Okay, so the city's municipal code currently currently references outdoor dining in section 21.06.070, which addresses the civic center area plan. However, it is specific to sidewalk dining currently. So what we'll need to do is go ahead and look to amend sections O and P of the GMC, which address the zoning development standards for the downtown village area. The first section that we'll be looking at is section O, which addresses outdoor dining from an operational and regulatory standpoint. This section should be amended to add parklets and update the existing outdoor dining standards. Last year, community development did go ahead and meet with 2 board members of the BID to get input on new outdoor dining standards. This resulted in the proposed amendments you'll be hearing about this evening. These amendments were also later presented and agreed upon by the city's planning commission. The second section we'll be looking at is section P, which addresses the application and permit review process. The amendment required here will be that the sidewalk dining permit requirement be removed and changed to require an outdoor dining use agreement instead. And for consistency, the term sidewalk as it relates to this section will be replaced by outdoor. Next slide, please. Sorry, give me a minute here. Okay, so looking at section O, I'll just go over a few of the specifics and notable changes of the section here. So the title of section O is going to be changed, or we're proposing to change it from sidewalk to outdoor dining to include the practices that are existing today. It's going to go ahead and add wine and beer tasting rooms to possible users of outdoor dining. The process will require a use agreement instead of the current encroachment permit. The use agreement will need to be renewed annually by those who are utilizing the parklets. And then also a primary pedestrian path needs to be maintained. On the PowerPoint, there is an error, so I want to go ahead and just clarify. Originally, staff did recommend a 9-foot clearance between the building and the red brick ribbon near the street. However, the bid board went ahead and recommended reducing that to a 4-foot clearance. Staff and planning commission now recommend a 6-foot clearance, which we feel is a happy median. This does consider space for a 2-seat tabletop, as well as conservatively ensures pedestrian safety as well as ADA compliance. Next would be businesses that would like to have entertainment and alcohol will have to obtain a conditional use permit from the planning commission. Serving of alcohol will require approval from the Department of Alcohol Beverage Control as well. Next slide, please. So continuing addressing items on section O that we're proposing to change. Power washing is currently required in the current municipal code. We are looking to go ahead and remove that. Affixing any item to the right of way with bolts, drilling, adhesives, etc. is going to be prohibited. Umbrellas must be no more than 10 feet in height and must be a primary solid color. Lighting must not face the street. Overhead electric cords are going to be prohibited. Additional conditions also could potentially be added. Violations will be subject to penalties, fines, and revocation. Next slide, please. So moving on to section P. Again, this section addresses changes related to terminology as well as the application and permit review process. So this is again going to address CCAP application permit review process. The first item being the title of paragraph 3 be changed from sidewalk dining permit to outdoor dining use agreement. We'll go ahead and replace the word sidewalk with outdoor dining throughout the section. This will update planning to community development director. This will include the requirement for an outdoor dining application as well. The application will go ahead and require that businesses and property owners fill out their information to its entirety. It'll also include the acknowledgement of the terms and operating standards that will be put forth in the application, as well as the new municipal code standards. Assumption of risk and responsibility with a proof of insurance, copy of an ABC license and a CUP if the business will be serving alcohol outdoors, as well as a site plan. The outdoor use agreements will be valid for 1 year and may be renewed annually. Periodic inspections for compliance will be conducted as the city sees fit. Next slide, please. So should council approve the first reading of the proposed outdoor dining ordinance, staff will move forward with the next initial steps. While the following are not recommendations tonight, we did want to briefly mention what that's going to look like over time. So the first will be begin working with businesses individually. At that time, we'll go ahead and go over details of the outdoor dining application and use agreement, making sure to go over any notable changes, as well as address any questions or concerns that each may have. The next steps will also include establishing a fee to process an outdoor dining application. So preliminary research and analysis has already begun. Staff has conducted some preliminary research on other outdoor dining programs that are currently out there right now, as well as their fee structures. While staff has identified cities transitioning from a pilot to a permanent program, the information out there is extremely limited. So we have been doing the best we can to obtain that. Cities who have adopted a permanent outdoor dining program are mostly tourist-driven cities and see a loss in parking meter revenue, as well as an increase in incurred costs. So we are also keeping that in mind as well, that Glendora is different in that respect. We did begin reaching out to businesses with our findings that we've determined, and what we've determined is that an alternative fee structure that looks very different than other cities should probably be considered. Staff is now looking at the fee as more of a recovery cost for regulatory scheduled maintenance, staff time, use of electrical boxes, and substantial repairs that may be needed in the future. The details and breakdown for that is included in your staff report. Once we determine an appropriate fee, we will bring that back to council and propose a resolution to amend the master fee schedule at that time. And again, these are not recommendations that we're proposing tonight, but just to give you a look at what this would look like in the future should the municipal code amendments be approved. So with that, we recommend that the city council open and conduct the public hearing, approve a categorical exemption, introduce the first reading of the ordinance that we are proposing. Third, schedule a second reading and adoption of the ordinance, direct the preparation of a summary ordinance to be published, and lastly, to provide staff with the direction to work with the bid to develop standards and permitting processes for items in the public right of way. So with that, that does conclude my presentation, and I'll be happy to take any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. There won't be any questions right now. We're going to have public comment
Okay.
first, but great presentation, really appreciate it, very detailed. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and open public comment for anybody interested in speaking on this item. Each speaker will be entitled to 3 minutes to speak on this item and this item only. At this point, I've got 2 speaker cards. So if there's anybody else that would like, get a speaker card from Kathleen. So John Harold, you're up. Welcome, John.
Thank you
Happy
very
New Year.
much. It's very interesting because this is the first time I come here as not a resident, but as a local business owner. As you all aware, I'm the local civil rights lawyer now. We opened a little practice here in town, Lori and I. And I'm here to discuss one of my concerns, which has always been a concern, which is support of the local businesses. Now, during the pandemic, I was one of the first people to realize how precarious the position was for our restaurants. As a matter of fact, Lori and I and a local minister by the name of Elvin Miranda, we went out and bought tables from Home Depot and we sat out in front of the stores. I would go for breakfast usually at Kara's Corner, lunch at the eatery, and dinner maybe at Priscilla's. And Lori and I would sit there and Alvin and his wife would sit there with their chairs until it got so cold, I had to buy Lori a heater or else she wouldn't go out. So I've had great concern for our local restaurants. They're wonderful people. They're small people. It's important when you're looking at what you're going to do, keep them in mind. The pandemic hurt them the most. I was a county employee at the time. I had no problem with it. Government workers, council members, city staff were not impacted near as much as they were. So when you're looking at these proposals, and actually the only one I disagree with is I don't think we should require that the umbrellas be solid color. I think it should depend on the artist the plan they have for their store. I think when government gets too intrusive, government doesn't do well. And I don't think you need to have 3 votes to decide what color your umbrella is going to be. So that's one of my concerns. But one of the most important things is for us to realize to help these small businesses. Now, we were fortunate, or I should say you were fortunate. You got a grant to build the parklets, which was very nice. And so the city also received a large sum of money from COVID recovery under different other programs that were done. Who didn't get a lot of money is the local businesses. They're the ones who have suffered. And just because they have more space now in front of it, doesn't mean they're necessarily doing better. Because any businessman will tell you space doesn't count unless it's bringing in money. And so we have to realize, as you're looking at this proposal, when you come back with your fee schedule, you'll see me again. If it hurts the local businesses. At this time, we should be doing everything we can to help them. They're just getting off their feet. Now's not the time for the heavy boot of the government to descend upon them. So I ask you, while you're looking at this, remember, now tomorrow morning, I'm going to be over at one of my restaurant places, and I'll be talking to all the people there, and everybody has agreed with me so far. They don't want the fees increased for these people. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Next, Matt Russell. I was looking around for you, Matt. I didn't see you out there. Welcome tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Boyer, Councilman. My name is Matt Russell. Most of you know me, a long-term resident. I'm also here tonight to speak in opposition to these proposed modifications to this ordinance, mainly from just a voice of freedom and non-government interference with businesses. As we all know, the pandemic has been devastating to a lot of our businesses. They've been bullied and taxed and regulated to the point of extinction. And as many of you know, I've been very upset and very concerned about our businesses, particularly our local restaurants. In reading the proposed changes, I really don't see any value added to the citizens of Glendora by having any of this extra regulatory language regarding outdoor dining. I think the existing statutes, in combination with how things have been conducted the last 2 years, would be sufficient to preclude any safety concerns, any other government type city concerns on the operation of these businesses. I'm also concerned with some of the language I've seen in the section 2 of the proposed ordinance. A couple of items. The city may, at their sole discretion, place additional conditions upon the issuance of outdoor dining use agreements. And then the following section has phrases: outdoor dining use agreements may be terminated by the city with or without cause, regardless of the nature or the scope of financial or other interest in or on account of the agreement of the permitted use. So as language like that, the city would have power to not only institute whatever other regulatories or increase whatever fees that they wished, or else they could terminate existing agreements unilaterally without any cause whatsoever. And I think that, just on basic principle, is totally wrong. The city of Glendora serves at the consent of the governed, and these completely violates all of that, all those fundamental principles. So I would just end this saying, I don't see any value added in what you're trying to do. We've made an agreement. We've already made that trade. We've lost available parking in exchange for more space for the restaurants. And I don't see any need or any just reason why you want to charge fees for restaurants to do nothing more than to pay for the regulatory oversight that you're imposing. I just don't see any value added in that. And I am opposition of these proposed changes. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. Don Nolan. Welcome, Don.
Thank you, Gary. Mayor and council members, I'm Don Nolan, owner of the Village Eatery. I'm also a member of the Business Improvement District. I was on the committee to put this whole thing together and, you know, I agree with the presentation as it was made. My only concern is the fee schedule and that, you know, I've heard different numbers thrown out there and that, and I just hope you guys are looking, like John says, you know, we've struggled at the restaurants down here and continue to, I think. And so I hope you looking at being fair and putting this fee schedule together. I don't disagree with maybe we have a annual application fee. If we're going to use the electricity for lighting, then maybe we have a electrical fee or something like that on an annual basis. I think that's fair, but I think we also have to take into consideration, if you're looking at other cities, we can't compare downtown Glendora to Santa Monica or Palm Desert or some of these other cities that I think have been looked at. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay, appreciate it, Don. I don't have any other cards. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Okay, do we have anybody on Zoom?
I am showing none. Anybody on Zoom would like to participate? If you can please click on the raise icon. We have none and I have no emails either.
Okay, appreciate it. At this point, I'll bring it back to council for discussion. Who wants to start?
I'll go.
Go for it.
Thank you, Gary. So just for clarification, we gave out close to $2 million worth of ADA support to small businesses and nonprofits. And that went a long ways. I heard a lot from a lot of the small businesses that did receive that and to help them over a tough time. So the city did do right by that. In fact, we were one of the leaders in the whole valley. In fact, all of, I think, Southern California in giving that out, and others followed suit after that and quite after that. Part of this ordinance here is for ADA requirements and insurance requirements and expansion of that. And in the way I read that, and there's a process that we have to go through for application and time that the city has to spend doing that. And that's for a specific type of business and not necessary to everyone overall. I do have an issue with, I don't know where it came from, with the umbrellas, kind of a silly thing in a sense. I don't think we should dictate necessary color as long as we say no advertisement, because I think that can get a little messy. But as far as I would like to amend this to say, you know, any color, as long as it doesn't carry any advertisement. And a number of little things here. And Alicia, you did a great job, by the way, on your presentation.
Thank you.
On page 12, it states the overall landscaping expense of, it's estimated at $1,200. Isn't that already covered by the bid fees?
No. So as part of the parklet and the additional landscaping, we have additional watering requirements, additional trimming requirements. The city has taken responsibility historically for some of those additional activities. And so those are the additional costs that we bear for many of those.
And also I'll piggyback on what Adam just said. And that's also including the cleaning of underneath the parklets, which is specific to the parklets. So that's also a small portion of that.
I mean, the rats won't take care of the food?
Fortunately not. Well, fortunately, I guess it's a good problem to have.
Refresh my memory. Are these parklets, are they non-exclusive? Can anyone have access to them?
So initially, when the parklets were put into use, businesses they filled out an application and it is considered exclusive use. So the businesses that currently have filled out an application, they do have exclusive use of these parklets.
Okay.
So that's also another thing of just maintaining equity of that. If they have exclusive use of these parklets, then there comes liability and territory with that. So.
All right. On the electrical, I understand that if you're going to use electricity, you have to pay for it because we have to pay for it. Is there a way that we can bifurcate this? Because it's not in, I didn't see it anywhere in the presentation or the staff report that we were going to address electrical. In fact, it says we will address it, but they haven't, it's not lined out in here. Is that something you're expecting down the road to address?
Correct. So we didn't go into the fees just because, again, we weren't really planning on going over that tonight, and that wasn't a recommendation. However, we have heard of one or two businesses that could potentially be interested in using an electrical box. So we have looked into that as far as working out the specifics. Tonight, I don't have information on that, but the fee will include that, and it's going to be an all-encompassing fee.
I would be in favor of an à la carte type situation. If you're going to use the electricity, that'd be a separate fee on an annual basis. And they can only use it for lighting, and that would be LED lighting, that otherwise it could get exorbitant. How long does it take to process a parklet application from the city standpoint?
Off the top of my head, I don't have an exact answer, but I would say around 2 to 3 hours, depending. And that's not including public works time. That's just including the actual inspection and processing on the community development side.
So where did the fee schedule come in here? It's the average, what, $755 a year for a parklet for the 10 users. How did this come up?
So again, this is just something that we're kind of at a starting point. We did, like I said, we started where everyone else has started. And like I mentioned, we are not Palm Springs. We're not a big city like that. And we did take that into consideration. So we just looked again at the recovery costs. So that's again, the landscaping, which is a small portion that pertains to the parklets, as well as public works, staff time. And that's going to include oil applications and just any minor things that they'll have to go out and repair. So we just have a rough estimate. Again, we haven't gone through a full cycle of what this is going to look like. So these are all just estimates at this time. So that's just going to, again, be landscaping, staff time, and materials. It would be a one-time all-encompassing fee.
So I have a fundamental problem with the fee schedule as it is right now, because we should have done this day one when we implemented the parklets. And as opposed to now, they're used to it as part of their business. And now we're going to come by and give them a fee. I'd be in favor of having an application process or an application fee, because we do spend time doing that. And it's almost like a business license that we'd have to do. So I'd be in favor of that, a nominal fee on a yearly basis or annual basis. And also for the electrical use, if they chose to use electricity, then of course, maybe a nominal fee for that, maybe $100, over $100 for this, but $755 a piece for a business, I think is a little steep. And I don't think it's appropriate, since we didn't do this from day one and now it's Johnny come lately. So that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Mendel? Any?
Thank you, and you did a great job. I guess I see this a little bit differently, and I do appreciate what you opened up with. I think that we were right in doing what we did in terms of giving funds out during some very hard years, and so that was good. The parklets are, I think, just an incredible thing for us. I've heard of a lot of folks from outside of our town that the parklets that we have are some of the best that they have ever seen. I see these rules as guidance to kind of button things up. I agree with Matt, with John, that I don't like for the power of government to stretch too far. But if we don't have guidance, then I think we're opening things up to then have to come back and say, we don't need a strobe light as you're going down the street, or we can't have bands at every one of these things, or just whatever. And I'm not anti-ban, I'm not anti-strobe light. I'm a 60s kid, so I get all that. I'm just using that as an example. Well, I am a little bit older than that, but I do think that society, the city, that we do need to button some things up, and I think these are fair. Umbrellas, I'm an SC fan, so I would vote for cardinal and gold on everything, but I know that's not going to fly. But umbrellas can be seen, and if you are down at the beach for any amount of time, there are umbrellas, and then there are umbrellas. And I don't want the latter in our downtown. So I think that's the point there, that we're just trying to button some common sense things up. I think I agree that for the most part, we've had good luck in terms of how things have looked and felt. But I think it's time to do what I've tried to say. As far as the, fee, I'm not stuck on 755. I wouldn't want it more, but I do think that there's merit in having some set aside for maintenance and things that go wrong, some of the boards that crack. I know when a tree fell on the fencing right in front of Don, I think we took care of that. I hope that we did, Don. I'm going out on a limb there. I should have checked with that.
No pun intended.
Unintended, yeah.
Yeah, we expedited air mailed it from overseas to get here, yeah.
I think Stephen took a trip to Norway and picked out the, iron himself and the bolts, and flew back and installed it and everything. So I do think that, there is room for a maintenance fee, an upkeep fee, power washing, just some stuff like that. So I'm happy that staff did not go with the first round of fees that you looked at. But I do think that I would support some sort of fee, application fee, electrical fee, maintenance fee to some extent, so that when things like when trees fall, okay, or when a car will crash into one of them, which we hope will never occur, but that the restaurant will not have to make a claim for that on their dime, but it's on our dime. And so I would like to see some kind of fee in here. So with that, that's all.
Thanks, Mendel. Karen?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for wearing TCU purple tonight. I appreciate that. Well done. No, I think that the parklets have been a tremendous addition, and I appreciate the way the restaurants have really embraced that and incorporated that. I think that cleaning up this application process will be good, but I would also agree that as staff looks at the fees to try to make it so that it's not a burden to the businesses, that it's a fair fee, so that some businesses can't say, hey, you favor them, they're getting more than us kind of thing, but yet still not make it so that it's a burden. But I think that we would defer to staff to work with the bid and the businesses to try to arrive at what would be a fair process, but appreciate bringing this together and trying to provide the guidelines as we go forward with the parklet. So thank you.
Thanks, David.
Trust me, I will sound unpopular, but I'm on your court. I'm a great fan of the outdoor business experience and the parklets, and certainly supporting the restaurants. I think we've done a great job with many of our business partners, and thank you for those that have complied and done the things that our March 2021 guide invited us to do. We have many partners that have chosen not to do that, and they're pretty cavalier and have done whatever they've chosen and gotten away with it quite a bit. So I have some strong questions. I do support, well, I guess, approving section O to, let's revise the ordinance. That's good. I'm even in favor of doing section P, but I have some very strong particular points that I'm going to make. And the reason is, we've done this, but we have not had compliance with the ordinance. We've ignored the ordinance and just turned our head to the things that folks have chosen to do that may or may not have been part of the original agreement. And I like the word homesteading. You homestead something long enough, you get away with it, it's there forever. Well, I don't think we need to do that. I think we need to respect the folks that have done it in partnership and help the ones that need to be helped to comply. So I have some very specific points I'd like to see brought in. And I've done some homework on this, so I'm pretty familiar with it. The 6-foot distance is good. It's perfect. But where do we start that 6 foot? So my recommendation is from the building side of the red brick ribbon. And I'm sorry to the person that doesn't want government pickiness, but this is going to be picky because for 22 months now, we've turned a blind eye and we have whatever we want to have. And it's not what the intention was. So my proposal is that 6 foot from the inside of the ribbon toward the building, that leaves a couple of things. And I will first also say, I'm looking at this as a outdoor business perspective. My grand picture is much different than looking at just 7 parklets. Okay, because we have businesses that are doing the same thing, but they don't have a parklet, and so we're ignoring them. I think we need to address that. So if we do our 6 foot in, that allows space for a 2-seat tabletop, not a 3-seat, because we grow to 3, then we start eating into that 6 feet. Let me tell you, my chocolate lab likes bacon. Okay, so when we go walking, and they like to go bacon surfing, so 6 foot's pretty safe. But that extra space against the building will allow for planters, maybe some professional business signage or a cart with something on it, but still leaves a 6 foot path. I think that makes a lot more sense. We have businesses that have chosen to put signage, professional and some amateur signs out on the sidewalk. My thought is fine, put it outside the ribbon, between the ribbon and the curb, so you're not impeding that walkway, or put it right against the building. I don't think we clarify those types of things. I think we need to do that. A hard question, and Alicia, don't take this wrong. It's not directed at you. But what are we going to do about the folks that have bolted things to the sidewalk and the curbs in the streetway, right of way that already exists? What's our plan there? We don't discuss that. Okay, we have unauthorized, unpermitted awnings and patios in a couple of spots. What are we going to do with those? I don't know. I think all of the existing parklets are enjoying use of power because they have the community key to the power box. I don't, they do. So there's power plugged in. I've looked, every parklet that's there today has either immediate access to no less than 1, sometimes 3 power boxes, so they're available. So let's just put the power to the platform. Stop talking about it, just put it there. And then they don't have to interfere with the tree lighting or the plug at the tree. There's a plug on the power box. The furthest power box away from a platform is 8 feet. Every other platform has them right in line on the platform. So it wouldn't be a difficult process to just power the platform. We talked about signage. When we talked about fees, I think I agree. An application fee, maybe an annual fair maintenance fee is reasonable. A square footage floor tax, I wouldn't support that at all. I think, and certainly not on a monthly basis. I think that's not fair to the business. While we did use some grant money to buy these things out of our general fund, okay, that wasn't ARPA money, but it was in lieu of first and last mile or transportation funds that might have gone to something else that we devoted to the business to promote our businesses. So it cost us something that we're not doing somewhere else because we invested this money, rightfully so, where we did. The consistent look is important. So the umbrella thing, yeah, just umbrellas. We talked about when we bought the 14 umbrellas that we purchased, and there have been supplemented by personal umbrellas by the businesses. We said we bought them, but if down the road they need to be replaced, that's going to be on the business. Well, that's not clarified. I think we need to tidy up, button up some of those details so that we don't have arm wrestling later. And it needs to be a fair, reasonable program for all the parties. And again, it's an outdoor business experience. I think we focus too much on just the existing parklets. It's not that. We have businesses that are dining outside of the space of their business quite a ways. What's our program to address that? So I guess when we come up with these guidelines for section P, what's our manner to get compliance, get partnership, and to enforce it? Unfortunately, hopefully we wouldn't have to enforce it. We would have partner compliance, but what are we going to do? We can't continue to just operate another 22 months down the road and grumble about the ones that aren't doing it, but applaud the ones that are and do nothing. So what's our plan? Timetable, I guess. But I am in favor of continuing and supporting the businesses. Let's just do it right and do it complete so that all of us are in the same program. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, David. Just to follow up, I don't think there's any question of how supportive the city has been of our local businesses. You know, our parklets down in the village have been very successful and they've become very popular. We haven't heard a whole lot of complaints about the loss of parking spaces. But I think it's important to understand that there are other businesses in the village besides restaurants. And so there are other businesses that are affected by these issues as well. The fees, you know, a fee in the neighborhood of the $755 a month number that's coming around, that works out to $60 a month. That's not going to cover the city's cost of dealing with all of this, but it's something so that the businesses are at least reimbursing the public for some of the costs, because we got to remember, it's not the city's money, it's the residents' money. And so it belongs to everybody here. The one question that I had that I didn't see in the report anywhere, we talked about the height of the umbrellas. I didn't see anything where it said the clearance of the umbrellas or anything around the walkways. Is that covered in the report anywhere? Because there's been more than once I've been walking around there and I'll bump my head on something or another.
Of course, yeah. To my knowledge, off the top of my head, I don't believe so. That's something that we could definitely look into. I could see how that would be a concern.
Okay, that might be covered in a general ordinance. I don't know.
I think the goal more was for the 6-foot clearance. So you have a path of travel. And if you chose to go through, then, you know, obviously you could umbrella watch if that's the case. But I just wanted to go back and on your comment earlier, the city invested $500,000 in those parklets in order to move forward in a manner that was as quick as we could from the temporary parklets. And so we were trying to do the best thing we could for the businesses in addition to the $2 million and some of the set aside funds. And so we've had the conversation about fees for quite a while, which is why it's not proposed for an official fee tonight. But oftentimes we make things more complicated by saying a fee for this and a fee for that and a fee for the other thing, instead of just saying, here's the cost of doing business. It's one time. And by the way, it includes these 35 things. So just a little bit of clarity on the actual investment the city made in those parklets for the community. In addition to the Meta Avenue improvements, which would be more than $1 million that we're investing into the community as well. So and again, let's do the right thing first and let's come back and figure out how to dot our I's and cross our T's after the fact, which is why we're here tonight. But no specific clearance that I remember. I'll look at Jeff. Do you remember any clearance? And really our goal was to get the 6-foot walkway first and foremost.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just noticed that wasn't there. So I think that's it. If there's no other question and discussion. I guess-
Actually, are we voting on tonight just for the O and the P, or?
It would be staff recommendations 1 through 6 or 1 through 5.
1 through
Well, I
5.
understand that, but there's no fee. Is there a fee schedule involved with that?
It's to be determined, TBD.
Okay.
I did have a clarifying question since I just want to make sure I have this correct. So if we're making a revision to the amendments in terms of the umbrellas, I think I heard were we okay with the solid or just saying no advertising? I
So
think I heard a little bit of both.
when they go through, they'll make a motion and they'll make all the changes. So, but
Okay.
that's a great question.
Okay.
Is it multicolored, single colored, no advertisement? And
Okay.
so, and then some of the other amendments that were spoken about. So we'll go through that process and then we'll furiously write and try to keep down to make sure we can
Sounds
we can
good.
keep track of it.
I think we also need to put in context here too, that the increased business they have also increases our sales tax for their business, which we are a beneficiary of that, particularly since we increased our sales tax by 0.75%. So we get that money back as well. The better they do, the better we do.
One of the things to keep in mind, I think, is, and I think that we did a study of what other cities do. We're being extremely generous in this. I know other cities that I have spoken to in their downtown areas where they do this. What they'll do is they charge a fee for using the parking spaces and then wish the restaurant luck. Because that's it. There's no parklets built. There's no electricity offered. There's nothing out there. It is, they're just renting that space to the to the individual business. So, what we're doing, even though, there are always questions about what it is compared to what everyone, not everyone, but a lot of the businesses or cities I'm familiar with, we are being extremely generous in what we're even talking about here.
So to be clear that we're only going to be working on just the ordinance itself and no fee structure at all.
So we're looking for feedback on the fee structure that we'll take back and come back with a proposed fee structure. Unless the direction of the council is don't do any fees. Just to touch really quick basely on, we were talking about sort of how we would move forward with the enforcement side of things or ensuring that once an ordinance becomes effective. So first reading, second reading, 30 or 60-day window that we have to wait before the rules become effective. That's the timeline. I know it's not super fast, but can't change the state of California law. So we would come through and work with the businesses both verbally first, and if that doesn't work, then written documentation, and then there is a citation process that would go through, and that is the process and how we go about that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we adopt items 1 through 5 at the end of the PowerPoint. And my motion would be that the fee would not exceed $755, and embedded in that fee would be the use of power. And umbrellas would be of a solid color. I don't really want to get into political statements, beverage statements, whatever other statement is out there that people like to get into. So that would be my motion.
So the maker of the motion wants to adopt the fee schedule at this point in time?
The maker, yes, I do, because I do think that it would support the maintenance replacement of that. I mean, I would not want Don to have to pay for the railing that was bent because of the tree. And I think we should pay for, that, and they should have a little bit of that too.
Wouldn't that be covered under our insurance policy?
That's not nearly enough money to cause for the insurance policy.
But I don't think you're setting a fee tonight. You're just in the motion, you're stating not to exceed $755.
Staff would come back with an all-encompassing fee, which included everything we spoke about tonight, including detailing what some of the preventative maintenance is. I think one of the things that gets lost is cities are really good about building things. They're terrible about maintaining them. And so the preemptive maintenance, honestly, the businesses sign a waiver that says they'll take care of the day-to-day requirements of some of those parklets to make sure the upkeep is there. But what we're talking about is, was indicated earlier, some more significant upkeep to ensure that the wood and railing and everything else is in more pristine condition.
I'll make an alternate motion that we approve everything
Is there
here.
a second for the first?
Yeah, we need to see if there's a second. Before we have the second, could I request that we also have something in there to allow for a payment plan for the fees? Let's just say we end up at a $755 fee and you add the bid fee on top of that. We're looking at $1,200, and $1,200 for a small business can be tough to write that check all at once. So could that be included in this if?
Are we talking about like quarterly payments?
Whatever, some
We
sort of.
will come
payment
back with a
plan.
payment plan option.
Okay.
We could figure that out if that's the request.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table, so I'm looking for a second for that motion.
Can you clarify again the fee part? It's just that they're gonna come back with the fee schedule later, correct?
Yes, I
But
am.
not to exceed.
I'm in favor of some fee, a comprehensive fee, not nickel and dime it. But not to exceed the 755 as is shown now.
But we'll still have a discussion about that later.
Absolutely,
Right.
that would be my
Okay.
point. And it could be a zero fee for all that matter.
Well, then why bring it up now then? If we're gonna have. a
Well,
discussion
because
later?
I think we are being asked to give staff guidance, and I'm trying to give staff guidance.
Can we give guidance without making a motion?
You can do whatever you want to do. I'm not in charge.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Yes, I seconded it.
Okay,
I'll make an alternative motion to approve everything that we have here and the umbrellas to make them multicolor as long as they're multicolor, no advertising. And we will deal with the fee structure at a later date, but they have to also include a separate fee structure if you want to have à la carte for electrical hookups. So if you don't want electrical hookups, fine, you don't pay the fee. If you do, you do. So an application fee, just as a guesstimation, to give you direction in the motion of somewhere around $100 and $100 on an annual basis as well for the electrical.
we have a substitute motion. Do I have a second for that?
Right now, everyone's using the electric.
Then they shouldn't be using the electric.
I just telling you.
Well, then go get your tin snips
I'm
out and
not,
cut it.
but it's already happening. So I'm not sure that anyone would elect to opt out on electric. Doesn't,
Well, that's fine. And
not
they
clear,
pay that,
right?
they can pay the
don't
annual
see
fee
it.
for it.
on the umbrellas, there was has been discussion on several times about clearance, the minimum clearance. And proposed 7 foot. That's a little challenging because they come store bought at a standard size. You can put a plug in there. If the umbrella is not encroaching into the 6 foot clear space, be a 3 foot umbrella, it doesn't matter. But
The question is there a second to the substitute motion?
The question is there
no.
a second to the substitute motion? Okay, if we don't have a second, then the substitute motion will
Dies. for lack
die.
of a
Jeff, you
second.
stepped up. Did you gonna
I
add to this discussion?
just, and this was relative to the substitute motion because it included a requirement to create language into the ordinance that would broaden the options for colors, designs, whatever of umbrellas. And if that type of a change passes, I think we'd probably need some time because I don't think it's as simple as saying no advertising, because I have to go back and define what advertising is. Is it pictures? Is it images of, I don't know what? I'd have to go back and probably think about that and come back with a revised ordinance and language on that issue for the council to consider.
Okay,
if
but
you
that
want.
ordinance didn't get a second, so.
It didn't.
That's not a problem. for
And
you.
I will make a comment on how that came about because that was brought up. And so that was discussed by both the Business Improvement District and the Planning Commission when they made their recommendation on the colors of the umbrellas. And the consensus among those groups and staff was that having sort of a consistent color scheme, base level colors that would not detract from other things going on in designs and things that we're trying to accomplish in the village to have a consistent appearance, that was the best way to accomplish that, with restricting it to primary solid colors and a simple and straightforward way to apply the standard to everybody. And that's all I had to.
So with the
add to that.
primary and solid colors, can you have multiple primary solid colors or you have to have one primary
one-
solid color?
It's
Mr.
one,
Mayor, I call for the vote.
Yes or no?
it's one color.
One color. And
color.
also it doesn't say anything about having advertisement or not having advertisement on the ordinance currently. Excuse me?
I believe I'll have to look, but I believe it,
All the primary color.
um.
Well, by
So we
then-
can pretend what it says. It's all the same color. It's just a blank canvas, but I think there's said there's no text. Is that correct, Valerie?
I believe it did, and if umbrella shall be no more than 10 feet in height and shall be a primary solid color. Logos, letters, stripes, and or other designs are prohibited, and that's section 10. It's on page 4. Here's section 10, A10.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we have a motion, we have a second, and I was supposed to close the public hearing before we made the motion. So at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Rookies. Go battle.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Mendel, now make your motion. Just say go for it.
Go for it.
Okay, Karen, second? Okay,
I've already voted.
okay.
Oh,
Okay, so we have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson and Councilmember Davis. I will not conduct nor roll call vote.
We need to read the
Councilman-
ordinance by title, please.
The ordinance by title. The ordinance 2075 entitled an ordinance of the city council amending title 21 zoning, section 21.06.070, which is zoning development standards of the Glendora Municipal Code relating to outdoor dining. So I will conduct an oral call vote. Councilmember Alves,
No.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
yes.
Mayor Boyer.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Okay, well, thank you. We move.
Feel safe eating downtown now? You still feel safe eating downtown? Charge them double, Don.
We are the government. We have to complicate things. Okay, that's our job. Okay, moving on to item number 5, the second of the public hearings tonight. This is a public hearing to consider a resolution to approve a request of a tentative tract map and development plan review for 33 townhomes on the property located at 531 to 555 East Arrow Highway in Glendora. Project number PLN 20-0011, applicant JWDA-MS Architects. Invite Natalie Espinoza. You're gonna give us a report.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Boyer and council members. Before you is a request to approve the following applications. A tentative tract map to subdivide land to create 33 residential condominium townhouses, development plan review for approval of the development plans, and the sequent notice of exemption. The project site is located at 531 and 555 East Arrow Highway between Bonnie Cove Avenue and Sunflower Avenue. The site consists of 2 commercial centers that were developed in 1963. Here are a couple pictures of the site. As you can see, there are several vacant units at these centers. The proposed residential project consists of 7 row house buildings, each with 3 to 8 units in each building, totaling 33 residential condo townhomes. There's 1 driveway that provides ingress and egress of the site and also circulates around the development. Each unit includes a 2-car garage at the ground level, and there are also guest parking spaces along the rear property line. There are 12 units proposed along Arrow Highway facing the street. The condos will each have 3 stories. The first floor of each unit will consist of a garage, bicycle parking, storage area, and entrances into the units. Of the 33 units, 20 will have ground floor bedrooms and 7 will have a ground floor family room. Second floors include typical residential common areas, a powder room, laundry rooms, and balconies. And the 3rd floor will consist of 2 to 3 bedrooms with bathrooms and closets, and 20 of 33 units will have balconies. Here's a proposed conceptual landscape plan showing where the various trees, shrubs, and ground cover will be proposed. The city limit is located along the southern property line of the project. This means that the city does not have jurisdiction over most of Arrow Highway right-of-way. So that there's good aesthetics and to create better street life, the Arrow Highway specific plan created the amenity zone, which is a 15 to 25-foot setback from the front property line that includes landscaping and amenities. This area creates an inviting and interesting streetscape by incorporating pedestrian amenities such as seating areas, planter boxes, planting strips, and such. The applicant is proposing benches, planter boxes, and planting strips with various types of landscaping along the amenity zone. The amenity zone is shown at the bottom of the page. That's along Arrow Highway. These are various types of the landscaping species proposed throughout the project site. And here's a color elevation of the proposed project on Arrow Highway. The buildings are designed to have the front door facing Arrow Highway and have articulated second and third floors. The proposed architectural style is defined by the applicant as contemporary with a Mediterranean flavor. The elevations are nicely articulated and carefully detailed with exterior elements that include a white color stucco with sand finish, stone veneer wainscoting, and light brown stucco trim with black paint finished rails and door panels. Notices for this hearing were mailed out to property owners within a 500-foot radius on December 28th, and the notice was published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner on December 29th. And staff recommends that the City Council adopt the CEQA notice of exemption for the categorical exemption and the approval resolution approving the proposed tentative track map and development plan review. And the applicant and I are available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant to speak if they'd like to. I believe Moises is here. Okay, come on up. Welcome tonight.
Hello. Hello, my name is Moises. Thank you, council member and mayor. I'm here to representing JWDA MS Architects. I would like to thank the staff that has helped us to get this project up to this point. And also I would like to thank you for your time. And I'm here pretty much to answer any questions that you guys have.
Okay, well, this time then I'll bring it back to the council if we have any questions, the applicant. Anybody?
Just have one question.
Okay.
Is there a sidewalk on this?
Yes.
I didn't see it on the plan that they would just showed. There is a sidewalk. Oh, that's good enough.
Yeah,
There is a sidewalk.
There's a
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Are you talking about the sidewalk on Arrow that's actually on Arrow?
So there is sidewalk in, correct? They're not showing that plan.
Yeah, my understanding is the sidewalk is actually county property, isn't it? In
That was
that
what I
particular
heard.
area? Yeah, so the
that's-
sidewalk
That is
actually
correct.
is governed by the county, so the city starts on the north side of the sidewalk.
Do we know what the width of that sidewalk is?
Is your microphone on, Councilman?
Yes. You know what the width of the,
Natalie, do you happen to know off the top of your head?
that's right. That's right. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, no other questions?
I actually have a question. Given that Arrow Highway is a multi-jurisdictional controlled highway, we already experience motorhomes camping and things like that, and in a 33 home development with 18 or 19 guest parkings, it's about 1 to every 2. So it doesn't do my Turkey Day test real well, but I guess my concern is, what are we able to do to keep Arrow Highway from becoming an overnight overflow parking situation or a dead car situation in any development along Arrow Highway? And I support your project.
So just from a county jurisdictional approach, that's all within the county jurisdiction.
You got great answers tonight.
Yeah, no,
They're
I
right
wish it was a
answers.
better answer and I wish I could answer for, I
Yeah,
think what
I
we've
understand.
seen along Arrow Highway and when there's been other development, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've seen some of the mobile residents not camp in front of those finished areas. And so I think lighting and the aesthetics and sort of the development itself will
Yeah, I would hope it
tend to
would
get rid of.
discourage it and support the residents, the investors to not have to address that. So Good.
I would just
Nice
add,
project.
yeah, that the county does also have some bike improvements and first last mile improvements along our highways, some pedestrian travel. So hopefully that also encourages cars not to park there as well.
Okay. Thank you, Moises. If there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and open public comment, invite members of the public to give testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes speaking on this agenda item only. I do not have any speaker cards. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item? Nope. Then is there anyone on Zoom wishing to speak on it?
Currently, I am showing none. If anybody on Zoom would like to participate, if you can please click on the raise hand icon. We have none and I have no emails.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'll close public comment on the public hearing, bring it back to council.
I'll
for-
move recommendations 1 and 2.
I guess I'll bring it back for a motion. That's not what my instructions say, but we're good.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Alves, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson.
Could I just make a statement?
Sure.
And I do appreciate the fact that 61% of these have a bedroom on the first floor. I am very serious about that because as you all age to be my age, you're not gonna like stairs. Just trust me, you're not gonna like stairs. And these are gonna sell. And it's gonna be nice to have over half of them have a bedroom without going to the third floor of your house. So I really appreciate that. And I am serious. I've made a kind of a name for myself to want that. So thank you for, doing that. And so thank you.
I breathed a sigh of relief when I looked at the plans and saw that. Thought, oh, good.
When I
Wendell's got his
read
bedroom.
that,
I too looked and counted.
I actually went, yes. And my wife walked into the office and she thought I was, doing something that older folks do and they get excited about little things. And so this was a big thing. So thank you for, doing that. So, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
push the second button.
Yes.
There you go.
I will.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Alves, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. I will not conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Alves,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
and Mayor Boyer.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, this brings us to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion without individual discussion unless anyone on the council is requested to remove or discuss an item. Does anyone want to pull or comment on any? of
Make a
the-
motion to approve items 6 through 11.
Could I ask the city manager to comment on item 10? Just to comment on it.
Is there a
Payback.
specific comment you'd like me to make on this item?
No, just exactly what it's doing with the signal.
Yeah, so, as part of the city's process to increase traffic safety, this is one of the intersections where that was studied and it was determined that some enhanced signalization equipment would provide a safer turning, both left turns. Especially in this area, we have 2 schools, both a middle school and an elementary school adjacent, and parents are rushing and people are rushing late to school, and this provides a little bit of extra safety. So definitely I appreciate the opportunity, Councilman. So these enhancements for signals, as you can tell, are expensive. More than $200,000 per intersection, which is what we budgeted. We try to do 2 of these a year to increase safety. So these are the left-hand turn lanes, which should not allow people to turn on the green, but allow to turn on a green arrow, which should enhance safety of both people walking to and from schools and people traveling as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Okay, well, we have a motion by Karen, a second by Mendel.
So I will conduct an oral roll call vote to approve the consent calendar items number 6 through 11. Councilmember Alves,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. On to item number 12, 2023 annual review of the city council appointments to various regional organizations as city reps. Adam, I understand you're going to report on this.
That is me. And I believe we also have a member from Cal Cities on the call this evening. If we could please unmute Melanie. So I'm sure the city council may have some questions, and so we'll get to that at this point. So good evening, Melanie. Just really brief oral presentation for me, then turn it over for conversation amongst the council. The item before you this evening is a resolution to make the rest of the changes to the city council appointments, the various boards and commissions, and also there's a conversation on Cal Cities. At our last city council meeting in December, Councilman Fredenall asked for this item to be agendized on a conversation about Cal Cities and our ongoing involvement. A previous request was also made by Councilmember Alawis and Mayor Boyer. I'll touch base on that in the second half of the presentation. At your December 13th meeting, where the city council reorganized and appointed Mayor Boyer, Mayor Pro Tem Thomas, we did some required mayoral appointments to the various boards and commissions, the city selection committee, the county sanitation areas, as well as the Metro Gold Line, which we have a resolution that states the mayor must be the second if they're not the appointment. This evening is the rest of the rearrangements of those roles and responsibilities, most notably for Cal Cities LA Division, Councilmember actually it's Karen who's going to take over that lead role. David will take over some of the water related functions from the protection agency and become a second to Public Works on the San Gabriel Valley Water Association. And really those are the three main changes. All their assignments remain the same. There's an attachment to this presentation that provides the details for both primary and secondary appointments. So the more robust conversation tonight is the city's ongoing participation in membership in Cal Cities. And please allow me to provide just a brief overview. Cal Cities, which many of us, remember as the League of California Cities prior, stated mission to defend and expand local control through advocacy efforts in the legislature, at the ballot box, in courts, and through the strategic outreach that informs and educates the public, policymakers, and opinion leaders. Services provided by Cal Cities to the city include monitoring and tracking engagement of bills and policy related areas, communication on advocacy efforts. A lot of the positions the city council takes, Cal Cities will have provided a sample letter that we utilize. They provide action alerts and again, language that can be used. They have filed court cases on behalf of cities, and they also offer from a staff perspective and council member perspective, training for city managers and city attorneys and finance professionals and planning professionals. Of all of the member agencies that we'll go over, Cal Cities is the largest. More than 475 cities of the 482 cities in California are members of Cal Cities. Cities also member of other associations like SCAG, which is more regional planning, of the California Contract City Association, which is a little less than 80 cities, predominantly in Southern California and LA County. We're also a member of the Independent Cities Association, which is about 40 cities. We also have our local COG that we're a part of in our Chamber of Commerce. In the fiscal impact section, we talk about the total cost. In Cal Cities, it's about $19,000 a year. For our annual membership. Our lobbyists, for example, is about $42,000 a year. One of the challenges, and I think cities have had this ongoing conversation, that as the state continues to try to push and erode local control, some people are frustrated at not having a stronger position to try to oppose some of the changes from the state of California. And the league for a long time has, worked with cities to try to offset some of that erosion, which has continued, for the large part of 25 years. And so, a lot of the conversation regarding cities and advocacy in Cal Cities related to last annual conference, when there's a resolution process where they set policy moving forward. Since two of you were there this evening, we'll turn it over to you to share, your commentary. There was some concern that the views of all members were not heard. There's actually a letter from Cal Cities LA Division on this topic, which was provided to the council this evening in a letter, and that came from the Mayor Pro Tem of Diamond Bar on behalf of the LA County So this evening, we're looking for some direction on that front. We have prepared a sample letter that's included in your packet, asking for some changes to the annual resolution process. I'm sure Melanie can go over some of the changes that Carolyn has already talked about making or potentially looking at if that becomes a question. And really, we're looking for your feedback on that front. So Mayor, turn it back over to you for conversation at the city council level.
Okay, appreciate it. Melanie, I'll ask if you would like to say something before we have discussions and questions, or if you want to hear what we have to say and possibly respond.
I always defer to the mayors, so I am flexible either way in providing remarks to the council this evening.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and bring it back to council, and who'd like to start on that?
I guess I could.
Go for it, Michael.
So I was appointed back in 2017 as a delegate to Cal Cities. They were an amazing group of folks, right? They very, very helpful, particularly for a newbie going on, learning different things, learning what you can and can't do, and talking to other folks that have been there for a long time, and the advocacy there. It was just absolutely amazing. But over time, over maybe a 2-year period, management has changed. You know, a lot of talent was lost, and things became unraveled and challenging. As you know, I'm also on the subcommittee for governance and transparency, and it became very, very evident that not only did they have the Cal States have their own agenda, they pushed that agenda with directing votes, which I got extremely upset. And I think, Gary, you had some of those similar issues and situations. And so I requested a meeting with Carolyn Cunningham, Carolyn Coleman, and asking for a meeting with her to discuss my displeasure with what had happened. And there was no joy there. Nothing happened. And it continued to unravel, and very unfortunate because they are a resource. And I think if they can get back to where they were, that'd be wonderful. As we all know, they were noted as an organization of no when it came to Sacramento, and then they became an advocate for Sacramento. And this is very, very frustrating, particularly for those of us in the city who want to have local control and guide our own direction. Case in point, last week, our governance and transparency meeting was postponed or because of weather. I get an email this morning saying, oh, by the way, it's on for day after tomorrow. I'm sorry, I can't schedule something that quickly for a meeting. There was no heads up on that, so I'm going to miss a good portion of that meeting. And I sent a letter to that effect to the maker of that, as well as to Carolyn. No response back to date about that. And I know of other members that are frustrated as well about the local control issue. I think that's the number one. I think that if there's a way that they can come back full circle and find their ways as far as what they're meant to be, I think it might be advantageous to stay, give them maybe a small amount of time to figure it out and move forward. If not, kind of spinning our wheels. I know that staff gets a lot of value out of it from their groups that they talk with, but at the end of the day, they're there for advocacy for us as well. And I don't believe they're providing that service to us at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Anybody else want to weigh in? David?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was one of the participants at the Long Beach convention, a good convention. A new process. I was the voting delegate, and frankly, the voting process went right past me. I couldn't figure it out. It was complicated. The language was not clear. The first vote seemed reasonable and was a flag vote. The second one was an audible answer to the vote before the sound even cleared the room. That was nuts. That was the presiding officer was the incoming president, Mr. Ali Taj. He's a council member in Artesia. We've spoken several times as late as today about that. And he assures me that he has heard the message. He is working on it. He's hearing it from many entities that manner of business is not acceptable. The mission statement seems to be applauding what's going on in Sacramento as opposed to working for the cities that are the members and the local control issues. I think and believe what he says, that he is hearing that and he is working to make changes and adjustments. I think our membership in the league is valuable, from the networking, the staff development, the education processes, all excellent programs. But unfortunately, I think there's such cheerleaders for the legislature that's in Sacramento, which I'm not a real fan of overall, but there's such a cheerleader for that. They're forgetting who sent those legislators there and who's the members that they're working for as the league staff. I think that message needs to be clear, that our continued membership is contingent upon some great adjustments or reevaluation of their direction. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Karen, Mendel, anything? Okay, I'll just weigh in. I was also at the Long Beach conference, and the voting process was an embarrassment to all of us. But you know, that wasn't the big catalyst of having this conversation. I think we all asked to have this conversation to understand everything that the league brings to the table, because we don't know exactly what staff gets from the league on everything. And I think it was really important for us to hear about that. We have, you know, it's okay to not get our way. It's a little frustrating when we're not being heard. And that's what I feel. I'm on the Housing and Economic Development Committee, and I've been on that committee for 6 or 7 years now. And those conversations have gotten just a little bit more frustrating with the fact that the conversation always seems to be one-sided. And I will share that a couple of years ago, I decided not to reapply to be on the committee because I thought it was a waste of time, because I couldn't, you know, you couldn't have conversations there. It's about 45 people on the committee. And I'm just going to share a conversation I had with another member of the committee that was like-minded as I was also a real estate professional. And he calls me and he says, "Hey, I hear you didn't reapply." I go, we need your voice there. And I go, "Okay, I understand, but there's other things I could be doing." As we see on all of these assignments, we're pretty busy. We have a lot of things to do. And his comment to me, which was, you know, a little telling, he goes, "Gary, you and I need to speak up to try to convince the league to look at things a different way. And if we succeed, we do what's best for the people of California. If we fail, we do what's best for us as real estate professionals, because we make more money as these decisions are being made." Now, that's an awful thing to say, but that's some of the stuff that is happening right now. And we shouldn't be having those types of attitudes in these committees. We actually had one committee meeting in which we were discussing an issue, and when it came down to a vote, the vote was relatively close, and the chair of the committee actually started texting people that were not at the committee to ask them to vote via text. Now, this was an advisory committee, so I don't know the legalities of that, but it's pretty silly to see things like that happening. So I have just seen over my 7 years of being involved in the league that things have changed dramatically. And I think there's a recognition of those changes have taken place. And I think it's important for us to have this conversation so that we can at least make sure that Cal Cities understands that we are a little bit frustrated. I'm not convinced I'm ready to support separating from a membership of the league right now, but I would like for us to at least put this on the calendar to have another conversation 6 months or a year from now, and see if some of these changes with some new leadership at Cal Cities might make a difference. So that's sort of our opinions. As far as the rest of the assignments, I think we've talked about all of those. We do have pretty busy schedules, and we do a lot more than just show up here a couple times a month. But as far as the conversation with Cal Cities, I'll ask Melanie if you'd like to respond to any of our concerns.
Thank you. I'd be happy to provide some remarks and some general overview and respond directly to some of the comments made, if that is okay with the mayor and council.
Yes, go ahead.
Great, thank you. So good evening. I'm Melanie Perrin. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Advocacy for the League of California Cities. I am here tonight on behalf of President Ali Sehaj-Taj and our Executive Director and CEO, Carolyn Coleman. They send their regrets they're unable to participate this evening due to prior commitments. I very much appreciate your candid remarks, and I also appreciate the opportunity to be able to discuss Cal Cities and how your voice and engagement truly adds value to other cities and our collective advocacy efforts. As was noted in the staff report, Cal Cities is the largest and the only statewide organization protecting local control for cities, not only at the legislature and at Congress, but also at the ballot box and in the courts. We've been in existence for almost over 100 years, and I believe that the city of Glendora has been a member for over 60 years, if our records reflect that accurately. And you've been a very active member in advocating with us and participating in Cal Cities educational programs. In reference to what are the opportunities at Cal Cities that are provided, not just for the council and for staff, we offer unmatched educational programs for each of you and your staff at all levels of the government. These programs are an opportunity for each of you to engage and gather and learn from experts and from each other, looking for those best practices. What are other cities doing? And what are you doing in Glendora that may help other cities? I will note that this council has regularly participated in various Cal Cities events and standing committees. Two members of this council are longstanding and very valued members of our policy committees, where your voice is directly helping influence and provide guidance in those policy positions that are being taken at that level and at the board level at Cal Cities. I do want to note that being active in your advocacy efforts, you've helped amplify the voices of cities at the legislature. For an example, during SB 9, when the governor unfortunately signed it, you had joined in a coalition with us with over 250 cities in fighting that measure. And unfortunately, that bill is just the latest in a string of bills eroding local land use authority. Of note, with the legislature returning last week and with the additional 35 new legislators, which is remarkable to be saying right now, we anticipate that bills are going to be introduced again that's going to undermine local control, not only involving land use, but in other areas. And our voices are amplified when we are united in our advocacy efforts, especially in this political climate. We have one party holding supermajorities in the legislature. If we are divided, we lose. And if we're together, we can win. And we've seen this supermajority transition even more as we talk about the past few years, even further more into positioning than was historically that we were encountering in probably a decade to 2 decades ago. As a note, I do encourage all of you to join us in Sacramento this April. We host a City Leaders Summit where this is an opportunity to join your peers, hundreds of your peers, in advocating on key priorities for cities at the legislature, our lobby day, so to speak. I do want to talk about just a really quick, going back to the educational opportunities, about the opportunities we bring to the table. For your city staff especially, we hold various conferences, including a city managers conference, planners conference, fire chiefs, city clerks, attorneys, and your staff are participating in those educational opportunities to connect with their peers and learn about best practices and to get the some of the mandated training that is required or that is held during those conference windows, so to speak. And we also do additional opportunities. When COVID happened, when it first started, we embarked on a new form, which we hadn't done before now with the virtual format and me participating virtually, holding a series of roundtables, which have now become very commonplace for us to hold roundtables on very specific issues for cities. To highlight one issue, SB 1383 regarding the organic waste regulations that was passed in 2016. I think we held 15 roundtables that were significantly attended by city officials all up and down the state about how to best implement this program that's going to have a lot of challenges for both local governments and the industry as a whole. So there's certainly a lot of different opportunities for engagement, not only for the council and for the staff to grow and to learn and to provide those examples of what Glendora is doing. I do want to shift gears really quick here as the General Assembly was mentioned that's held during our annual conference. The staff report provides a great description of the components of the General Assembly. And I can't emphasize this enough, and council member had referenced this about talking with our president earlier. We hear you about your concerns about the process at the general alone by any means in those concerns. We are always open to having conversations with you and hearing feedback about how we can improve. With that, we do understand and we share the frustration about the General Assembly experience. This process fell significantly short of what our members expected of us. You have our commitment that we are already underway of looking to implement changes to improve this process for the upcoming annual conference in September, including looking at that footprint of timing of when the General Assembly is held versus being at the end of the annual conference. I do also want to acknowledge about the policy committee rescheduling for the orientation meeting last week. That was certainly a decision that was very balanced with the storm impacts that were happening. And obviously we have a lot more happening. It is not our desire, understanding how much the impacts are to each of your calendars and being thoughtful about the statewide where are all the impacts happening. So certainly at a minimum, that webinar, the orientation will be recorded, and I am absolutely available to walk through any components of that orientation with anyone specifically, and for the 2 council members that do serve on our policy committees. With the storms, I do want to note on a personal note, acknowledge that your city may be having significant impacts from the storms, and that we are here to support you and continuing to provide information to the city manager on response efforts. And we do a lot of call coordination with the state Cal OES about immediate impacts that are happening and being able to go and share and facilitate that information for all the councils and for city managers. So with that, I really appreciate, again, the opportunity to be here tonight. Cities around the state really benefit from your engagement, and we strongly value you. And I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. And again, there's no question the value that Cal Cities brings to us as an organization. The advocacy that we're frustrated about is only one aspect of what Cal Cities brings. But I think it's important that we do have the conversation and that we make sure that it's being heard. And I know we're not the only city that are having this conversation right now. And it's really important that we can at least continue to be heard moving forward at the Cal Cities level. So with that, is there any other discussion?
Gary, may I?
Sure.
Melanie, so thank you for your presentation. I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Jennifer Kwan is amazing. She is a great rep for you folks and to us as well. She does an amazing job. She does whatever she can within her scope of authority. But what I didn't hear from your presentation was, did you hear us? What are you going to do? Are you going to bring something back to us? Are we going to hear from Carolyn? What's the next steps? I mean, you guys offer quite a bit of items, but we're here tonight talking about your performance or lack thereof. What are you going to bring back to us?
Well, certainly I think about with the General Assembly improvements, that is information. We have to make those improvements probably by late spring, early summer, as the General Assembly, we have to get that schedule finalized. So you're going to see improvements already when that schedule gets released for the General Assembly, and certainly looking at additional process improvements that are associated around the General Assembly. So you have our commitment there that will be a determination that, like I said, I would anticipate would probably be by May. I'm not our education expert here for who's hosting the conference. However, we will certainly keep you updated on that. That is not an issue. Regarding the advocacy efforts that I appreciate, as I am the Deputy Executive Director of Advocacy, that I would say is that we have a lot to address this year. We have already made budget requests of the governor, and the governor has released his budget today. And we've already released a budget analysis and summary of that for our city officials. Is that there's a lot of opportunity to see how we are engaging this year, and we hear you. I absolutely cannot emphasize this enough that I take to heart all the comments that I've heard here tonight. And certainly I'm sitting here understanding that I am here as representing all of you. So it's important for me to know, okay, what additional efforts, how do we need to be looking at things differently and working and coordinating with our stakeholders and fighting against efforts to go and continue to erode local control.
So what can we expect back from you?
Well,
So Melanie,
certainly,
if I can just really quick jump in, I think one of the things we had talked before, and as I had the opportunity to talk to Ms. Kwan and Ms. Coleman this afternoon. And so we talked about coming back on a periodic basis, Melanie, just for the updates and the advocacy efforts to date. And part of the things I asked to be shared this evening were how the city could get involved in more ways. And we sit on policy committees. I've sat on policy committees from a staff level as well. And I think it's up to us too to get involved as well. I think one of the things with Cal Cities, it's elected officials that sit on the executive board that provide direction, right? Not us, but others. And so staff like Melanie carries out that direction like I do with the city council. And so I think having us up there and being involved, whether it's legislative days in April, hopefully there's no more rain then. But I think it's for us to come periodic if the council requests us to come 6 months back, whether it's Melanie who comes or Jennifer who comes or Carolyn who comes or someone else that provides sort of a detailed update on things and progress we've made since that point and ways the city's been involved. If that's okay with the council, I think that would be helpful.
That's what I was expecting for her to say.
Okay. Melanie, is that okay with you?
absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate anything else, Michael?
So with that, I wanted to suggest, because some of us go up to Sacramento and we advocate and we talk about what we need here to try to bring goodies back home for us. I'd like to see if we can think about adding another committee for advocacy for us to go up there and work with staff, a member of staff, and maybe 2 members of the council to be able to go up to Sacramento and carry our wishes and dreams up there and to bring it back, if that's something we can consider to add that into the mix, besides working with some of these outside groups that we work with.
I know Moises, who's back there, has all kinds of experience from a legislative aspect of things. And so I know, is he hiding back there? So I'll tell you what, we'll definitely come back with options on how to move forward and come with a more legislative and robust approach. One of the things we've struggled internally is how to let the public know what the legislative activities of the city have been. And so we hold part of that too. And Melanie, that's the other part of this conversation is from a staff perspective, we need to do a better job of advocating the city's position publicly as well. And so, but Councilman, more than happy to come back to that and share a proposed solution and see if council buys off on that on a legislative trip and what we'll do and what our priorities are.
I think that we should exercise our lobbyists more than we do.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it. And Melanie, I just want to ditto Michael's comments about Jennifer. She does a great job for us. I have a lot of confidence in Ali and wish him much success this year. But we'll continue to have this conversation and I appreciate you being here tonight. And we do understand it's an uphill battle. That makes it even more important that we make sure that all the voices are being heard. So I do appreciate you being here tonight. So with that, I guess I'm looking for a motion from
Also move that we adopt the resolution for appointing delegates to the various commissions and boards.
I'll
And-
second.
And the second item is to continue our membership in Cal Cities with the author of the letter voting or sharing some of our concerns and expectations.
And to revisit in 6 months.
Excellent. And to revisit in a follow-up timetable, 6 months would be excellent.
Yeah, we'll amend the language to include that request.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael, you second?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ask everybody to vote.
Okay, so I will conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Elwes?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Boyer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Moving on, item number 13, resolution declaring the closure of Meta Avenue within the Glendora Village for the purposes of improving safety and economic development. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Stephen Matier. I am the Transportation Manager. I was demoted in the presentation, but we'll talk about that later, Lorena. It's okay. Yeah. She, every time I call Lorraine, I can feel the sigh come through. So I think this is her revenge.
Did you check your mail lately?
I don't know if I want to.
Okay.
It might be ticking. I don't know.
As long as you don't use her middle name, she's still safe.
That's true, yes.
Oh.
Or it's secret. So the item before you is a resolution declaring the closure of Mena Avenue as part of the Mena Avenue and Bus Plaza Improvements Project. This is a legislative step that we need to take as part of the project. Next slide, please. So I'll go over the background, the final plans that we approved, I believe in end of November what slow streets are, and the next steps that we have. Next slide, please. So by way of background, as we talked about earlier this meeting, outdoor dining was expanded due to the pandemic. The city implemented a number of parklets as well as the temporary closure of Mena Avenue. That resulted in a lot of positive feedback, and it really, kind of captured the imagination of what could Mena Avenue be beyond the pandemic. We had an opportunity to test some of that with Slow Streets grant money from the SGV COG. Those colorful benches you see there were paid for by the COG to put out there and test the use of this plaza really as more than just an outdoor dining area. Given the popularity of that, as well as some of our local property owners putting out, their own games, we've really seen that this place can be activated and really can be a new public space in the village. That resulted in final plans that we've been working on for the past year and that council approved in November. Next slide, please. We'll run through the plans that we have right now. So this is East Mena. This is on the east side of Glendora Avenue. This area has the fire pit, some outdoor games, cafe seating, and additional bike parking. Next slide. This is a visual looking through the plaza. So this is if you're looking west through. So you'll see the landscaping here, the games, and the fire pit, as well as the benches. Next slide. On West Mena, this is the furnishing layout. Again, we have the picnic tables here, and as well as cube seating, additional games like cornhole, chess, Jenga, some really very unique games out there. Next slide. And this is a look, again, looking westbound through it. So you'll see the picnic tables, cornhole, and the cube seating there, as well as the shade sails and the lighting. Next slide. And this is the bus plaza, a little bit more modest, but again, looking to activate the plaza. So next slide. And this is looking into the plaza with the balloons and the lighting, as well as the cube seating, kind of stage frame in the back, as well as the cafe tables and chairs. Next slide. So what we're here tonight to discuss is the Slow Streets resolution. And really, there's a couple things that's necessitating that, which is first is the expiration of the emergency declaration, which allowed us to close Mena Avenue. Without that Mena Avenue, we'd be in somewhat of a precarious situation with the street closure. The Assembly Bill 773 allowed cities to declare slow streets and closures via resolution or ordinance, as long as they support economic development, public health, and safety. This created a process to either slow streets down or to close portions of streets. And lastly, I'll note, given that the plans included a fire pit on Mena Avenue, SoCal Gas has required us to close the street. They were not able to find a suitable off-street location for the meter. So this was allowing us to put the meter in a secure location on the street. And as part of that, they wanted us to close the street. Next slide. So in terms of the slow street process as described in Assembly Bill 773, there needs to be a robust outreach process, as well as ensuring that there are public safety benefits and that there were plans completed. So this runs through the design schedule we've gone through. So we started outreach in July at the flashback. Throughout 2021, we did 7 formal board and council presentations, did a public survey with 339 responses. And then we also did additional 9 board and council presentations this past year. There's been no negative impact to traffic or circulation. And we did complete final plans in 2022. So we are in compliance with the Assembly Bill. Next slide, please. So in terms of our next steps, this is the high level schedule for completing the project. I'll note there's two major caveats here. One is the SoCal Gas schedule. We are working now to get their agreement to install the meter, which again, we're on their timeline, unfortunately. And we're opening bids this Thursday. So fingers crossed for good bids and good pricing on that. So if everything goes according to plan, we should be able to complete this project by mid-March. And then we'll also be concurrently developing a slow streets ordinance, which will further codify the closure of the street, hopefully by sometime in the spring of this year. Next slide, please. And with that, I can take any questions the council has.
Appreciate it, Stephen. Thanks. Bring it back. Questions? No? No, Mendel.
As much as we've talked about this, I've never have asked this. And it comes out of some experiences that I've had at the Stubborn Mule and seeing some kids being kids, but taking it a little bit far. Cameras, are there going to be any sort of, signs saying that you're on camera, we're watching you? I mean, these kids were, all but throwing fists at, each other. And I know they were roughhousing, but it only takes one trip or one fall, and then it kind of gets into a little bit more than just boys being boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't know if cameras were going to be installed that people could really see, because sometimes that's enough to kind of, hey, knock it off. So could you either enlighten me on that, or?
Sure. Yeah, we did not include cameras as part of the planning or the design work for that. So that was not included here. I will note though, for the games, we are using, or we're working on with a company called PlayShare. And they do lockers where you actually have to have an app to check out the equipment. So we'll know exactly who's using what, and if it gets damaged, we'll be able to trace that back. One thing we also do too is we'll be posting the city rules. So similar to what you see in a park, it'll say, like no rough, no fighting, no drinking, no smoking. But as far as cameras go, I think that's probably a broader discussion throughout the village on how that would work and how that would operate.
Well, I would encourage us to think about that, or at least put some signage up that's more than just the park stuff, because we've all seen that. And I know that when attorneys get involved, which we don't want that, then they point to those signs and it's all good. But I just think that there needs to be some level of oversight when parents are, they drop their kids off, bye-bye, they're gone. And then they just do, like knucklehead stuff. So I just think that we need to kind of think that through maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
But that's all, but I like it.
Michael?
Thank you. What's the management of the gas fire pit?
The gas fire pit will utilize a timer and a push button. So it won't be, on constantly. So it'll have to be, press a button, it'll be on for about an hour, then it'll shut off. It also has a high wind sensor. So in high wind events, it'll just be completely off. It won't turn on at all. And I know we talked about restricting the hours of the use. So say, past 10 p.m., for example, it won't turn on at all. So that's something we're going to look at adding to.
We brought this up in our briefing on the far west, the far east side of the end of the fun zone, as it were. Are we going to do anything with removing those boxes or keep those boxes in place? Maybe put curb and gutter there to finish it off, to make it look like it is an end of a street? Any plans in the future?
That's a question. So right now we're sticking with the planters. That's what the SoCal Gas has approved. So I think if we were to go back and change that, that would require, additional outreach.
So we're locked in by having those planters?
Yeah, and I would just add, that's also what the city council approved previously. That's the design.
Sure, but we can unapprove and change things too. But so there is no plans in the future to finish that off?
No, as of right now, no, we're trying to stay within the budget that we have approved. And so, reconstructing curb and gutter would obviously incur additional design costs, and that would be additional construction work that would either delay the project substantially or, doesn't mean we can't come back and take a look at it later. But I think for right now, the planters have done a great job. I mean, they don't move. They're incredibly secure. So I'm fairly confident that those are a good solution.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm just going to say thank you very much for going to Norway to get the fabulous furniture, the parklets, the railing, and thank you also for wearing purple tonight.
I don't have UCLA colors. I'm sorry, but we didn't do too well either. So it's okay. No. I know, yeah, we're all watching from
Yeah.
home.
I'd like to move we accept this resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by David, a second by Michael. If everybody would please vote.
All right, I will conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer,
Yes,
motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Stephen, I do just want to make sure that the umbrellas are going to be a solid color.
You know, I did hot pink polka dots. I might have to go revisit that order. So yeah, let me go get on the phone right now.
I'm just hoping that we get the gas in before Sacramento does something crazy about
Outlaws it.
gas.
Put in an electric fireplace. Okay, moving right along. Move on to new business item number 14, which is to discuss the award of a contract to Jan's Towing for police towing services for 3 years with options to renew for 2 additional 1-year terms. Management Analyst Julie Linger, welcome.
Hello, Mayor Boyer and council members. I did not get the memo about the purple or the UC or the USC colors. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna go over the contract for police tow services, a little background on it. We have had Jan's for our police tow services since 1997. Since that time, we have renewed the contract several times. Our most recent contract expired in October, and we are currently on a month-to-month contract with them. While we could put out a request for proposal for bids. Our tow service is kind of a unique situation. The police department requires that the tow company can provide non-consensual vehicle towing. So if a person is arrested and we need to tow their vehicle, if it's impounded, if we are towing abandoned vehicles. So we need a tow company that can help us with these non-consensual tows. We also require towing services 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. We also require a maximum response time between 20 minutes for the daytime and 25 minutes at night. So some unique requirements we have. In addition to those services, we also have equipment requirements and facility requirements. We require their storage facility be secured so that the towed vehicles and their contents will be safe. The primary storage facility must be within a mile of the city limits to make it easy for officers that may need to respond for follow-up, or for residents or other people who need to go get their vehicles out of tow or even just retrieve property for a tow from a towed vehicle. The storage facility also needs to have additional locked areas for when we tow vehicles for evidence purposes or evidence of crime. They need to be secured. And it needs to have the ability, we may have vehicles stored for evidence for years, so they need to have the space to be able to do that. As far as equipment, another requirement we have is tow trucks have to be able to remove vehicles from various situations. Car crashes, may need flatbeds if the cars are that damaged. We have some mountains and hills up there. If a car goes down the side, they need to have the vehicles that are able to pull those cars up from there. We also require all their tow truck drivers to be properly licensed, trained, and qualified to perform the towing services. They also need to be able to next slide. They need to be required or able to pass a background investigation. Let me catch up on my slides, sorry. As far as those were the driver's requirements. As far as the tow company, they must be properly licensed, insured, and comply with all the laws. The rates must also be reasonable. Jan's has been, like I previously said, Jan's have been providing this service since 1997. They also provide service for several San Gabriel Valley agencies, AAA, the Highway Patrol, Azusa, Covina, Irwindale, all the local agencies. And we we put it out for bid, and this go round, they were the only company to actually put in a proposal because we have such strict requirements with the location of the facilities. Currently, we've used them since 1997. We've been satisfied. We've never had any problems with them. Fiscally, they provide us $3,500 a month franchise fee for the privilege to be the exclusive tow truck company. We use one as opposed to Highway Patrol that rotates through different tow companies. We use one specific one, and they pay us the $3,500 a month for this privilege. We decided to charge this. It's based on a LA County civil grand jury recommendations back in 2016. We used to charge a flat fee, so there was an incentive to do more towing and impounding, and we don't want to do that. We just charge their fee $3,500. We don't want to incentivize towing people's cars from them. So we go strictly with the $3,500 minimum franchise fee. I recommend council approve the 3-year contract with 2 additional 1-year options. If you have any questions that I can answer, and we also have Jan from Jan's Towing here if you have any questions that you would like him to answer.
Okay, appreciate it. I'll bring it back to council for any questions. Dave, you want to start?
No questions, but thank you for the business partnership, the contribution to community services that the company provides tenfold all year long. And I've enjoyed their services several times, very professional. So I've had vehicles towed by them, but no, I've not been towed, if you know what I mean.
But
My request, not theirs.
he was able to conveniently pick it up though, right down the street.
I actually had a forklift moved, and that's
Oh.
not an easy task to do. So we
They have
we
you-
did that. Yeah, we did that.
Okay, Karen?
Thank you.
And I'll phrase it differently. I have been very fortunate to have Jan's Towing move my car many times or assist me through AAA services, not through police services. And they always go above and beyond in providing service. And as you mentioned, great community partners and all that they provide to the community in a variety of ways, through the Christmas parade, providing their light towers, endless ways that they give back to the community. So very happy to renew this contract.
Appreciate it. Anything else?
And I would say the same thing, but I have 2 questions.
Yes.
When was the 35? Was that what we have
Franchise.
always paid, or has that been raised or lowered?
It was established in 2016. We used to charge a per vehicle fee.
Okay,
So every vehicle that was towed, we charged it that way instead of doing the $3,500 minimum franchise fee. And that all stemmed from a LA County civil grand jury.
Okay.
I don't want to say investigation, but they did research on tow companies in the area, the San Gabriel Valley, and we're looking at all the differences, but from agency to agency, showing kind of the best practices and some of maybe not the best things to do. And that's when that changed.
okay, so that's been kind of their
Since,
fee.
yes, since
And
2015.
then I did not see that there's any room to raise that fee. Not that I'm advocating, but I'm a contract guy to some extent. So is there any way to raise that fee in the
In the 3 years.
succeeding years? Yes. And if there's not, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I
I'm gonna
think
vote
part of
yes.
that grand jury decision was because the public did not want it to be incentivized for cars to be towed. So
Okay.
that was a compromise to make it fair to the business owner and also make it fair to the people like David on the other end that
Yeah.
are getting their
The
car
city,
towed to the
David.
yard all the time. So that was why I think that was arrived at, because of the grand jury wanting to not incentivize towing.
It's just weird
Yes.
that a contract doesn't have, escalating fees. So that's fine. I just
Right.
wanted to ask. So
You could start by towing a white Suburban that's in the
Right.
parking lot with the Angels license plate frame.
Right, that's right. But no,
It's not-
I
Don't
echo
say.
everything that's been said. With AAA, they've come out to my house and it's been great, but I just was curious as to where all the fees were going. So thank you.
Well, you're batting 1,000, upsetting the restaurateurs and now the tow truck guy.
No, I'm just reading I'm
Get up on
reading
the wrong side of the
the
business plan?
information and, I think it's prudent to have that said.
Okay.
No, I'm in favor of it.
A little fun story, David, about forklifts. Back in 1995, a much younger Jan that had dark hair moved to forklift for me because we both started our business at the same time. And not knowing how to move a forklift back then, what are you going to do? Being young in the business, he says, "Sure, well, I'll take a look at it." Comes and picks this thing up, drops it off at my back doorstep, and he goes, "I just started business too." And I, reached in my pocket to go ahead and pay him. He goes, "Do me a favor, do good in business. I just started as well. Good luck." And that was it. We got reacquainted some years back after that. And, he's done amazing work here in the city. Whenever anyone needs anything, lights or help with anything, Jan is there. He was raised here, went to high school here, and I won't tell any of the stories about high school. I'll leave that for another day. But he's been a great community partner and gone through a bit of stress at the COVID-19, being mayor at the time with situations. But thank you, Jan, for all the hard work that you've done and the community partner that you are. I'm in support of this.
Okay, appreciate it. Does that create a conflict of interest since Michael got a freebie?
No,
from
but
me
I
25
think,
years ago?
I think that answers Mendel's question, that the differential and the fee that Michael's going to pay for it.
Yeah, he's got it covered.
So,
There you go.
No, I just want to agree with my colleagues, Jan's has always been a great partner and at the city and very supportive. So we appreciate it. So at this point, I'm looking for a motion.
I already made it.
Yes, we have a motion made by Councilmember Ellis, second by Councilmember Davis. I will not conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
yes.
Councilmember Freedom,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Isn't there a rule they're supposed to wait for me to ask for something? Things are getting out of control at my first meeting. Okay, next up, item number 15, to award a contract to Intercon Security Systems, Inc. for parking enforcement services for a 3-year term in the amount of $817,316. And
It's me
you're
again.
back.
I'm gonna hit the slides this time. Okay, background on this. Back in 2008, the city entered a contract with Intercon Security Systems to provide parking enforcement services. This was agreed upon back in 2008. They decided we were going to outsource it and free up our officers' times to do more pressing issues that officers need to take care of. It frees up the officer's time. This contract was extended several times and it expired most recently in October again. And we are currently in a month-to-month contract with them until we could put it out to a request for proposal. So we did that in October. Parking, oh, do it again. Sorry, I know, I'm weird with this. The scope of services. So what our parking enforcement contractors do for us? The main one is our overnight parking permits, our overnight parking exemptions. Can't park on the city streets between 2 and 4. And that's our first, we have 2 officers that cover night shift, and that is their main function, is to enforce that overnight parking GMC violation. They also enforce preferential parking districts. Our daytime officers and nighttime officers enforce parking time restrictions on city streets. This is also in city parking lots. This is alleys. Any street within the city limits, they are going to enforce all these violations, including the Glendora municipal codes and also vehicle code violations, expired registration, handicap placards, other violations vehicle code violations like that. In addition, when we went with Intercon Security most recently, we have added a few extra duties to them. We now have someone who works on Fridays and Saturday nights, and they help secure the park facilities. They lock park gates, they secure the restrooms. And they also provide through the night and the day, they provide extra patrol. It just gives officers an extra set of eyes. So not only do we have all our police officers out there and our community service officers and our auxiliaries, but now we also have parking enforcement. That is an extra set of eyes to help the police department. Let's go here. So Intercon, they hire, train, and schedule and equip their employees. They work with a police officer when they're first hired to be trained on all our various locations of violations. So our preferential parking districts, where our alleys are, where our large shopping centers are, where there may be the handicap violations, the fire code or the fire lane violations. So they get orientated through the city by a police officer, but Intercon actually trains the officers with the writing of the tickets and the other specific things like that. We train them to acquaint them with the Glendora specific areas. We currently contract, they provide 128 hours of service a week. We have one parking enforcement officer Monday through Friday. He works 7:15 to 3:45, and his main focus is going to be on all those vehicle code violations, the timed parking in the village, the time parking in alleys, the handicap parking is at the shopping centers. They also extra patrol the schools there for violations during drop-offs and pickups. We have 2 officers that work at night. One comes in at 8:45, one comes in at 9:45, and they work through the night till 5:15 in the morning and 6:15. And their main focus are those overnight parking violations. We also, like I said before, we recently added an officer to just come in on a Friday and Saturday nights to help so city staff didn't have to stay late to secure those city parks and restrooms. They are Intercom, when they are working for us, they are under the direction of our police watch commander, and we have a traffic corporal who reviews their productivity and basically holds them accountable. If there's something during the shift that comes up, parking violations, their watch commanders, their supervisor, but overall their performance is supervised by our traffic corporal. Again, they've been providing service since 2008 when we first decided to switch over and have a parking contractor. They also provide services for several cities in the San Gabriel Valley: Alhambra, Arcadia, Azusa, Covina, Laverne, Montebello, Pasadena, San Gabriel, Sierra Madre. So they are the local parking contractor. We have very experienced officers from the company. We have one officer who's been here 13 years, another who's been here 14 years. Our newest one has been here 3 years. So they have the experience in this city. We have a low number of complaints. We've had no sustained complaints. And besides parking enforcement, like I said, they're an extra set of eyes for the police department. They've helped locate stolen vehicles, DUI drivers, and have helped interrupt burglaries. We are satisfied with the services they provide currently. Okay. The fiscal impact, the first year cost of the contract is $258,240.32. The following 2 years, there'd be a cost of living adjustment of 6% and 4% respectively. We actually reached out to Intercon back in last April for budgetary planning purposes, and the quote they gave us at that time was actually 5% higher than what they ended up proposing when it went out for bid. The average yearly cost is 28% less than the other qualified vendor. We had 4 people asked questions regarding it, and then 2 vendors actually put in proposals, and this one was 28% less than the other one. The revenue generated from citations and the parking permits during the fiscal year 2021 was $4,807,764.07. So our revenues our costs are covering our parking enforcement costs. We're on track right now to cover the contract cost again with our current revenues from our permits and our citations. And just recommend City Council approve the 3-year contract with 2 optional 1-year extensions for our parking enforcement services. Questions?
Okay, Julie, thank
I know
you.
there's questions.
Questions? Yes, David?
Thank you, Julie. I do have a couple of questions, and Intercon's doing a fine job, I'm certain, and see their presence, so that's good. Couple of operational questions. With 161 miles of streets, not counting parking lots, how frequently would the Intercon officers see those streets on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
So I have some stats for you. Our 2 nighttime officers in the last 40 shifts they've worked, they've covered 2,650 miles and issued over 355 citations. So that 167 miles, they've covered over 2,000. So they're back and forth across the city. I can't specifically say how much time they spend in each area. Our day shift is obviously going to spend more time in the populated areas because that's where the citations are during the day, where our night officers are going to focus more on the residential areas because that's where those violations are. But I don't know how that's the mileage they cover in their shifts. That's for the last 2 months.
And then understanding,
Mhm.
we'll go with 170.
Yeah,
that's fine.
yes, no.
We have a 2-hour window of no parking overnight.
Mhm.
You can't cover 175 or 70 miles in 2 hours.
No.
Um,
If you're writing tickets,
Right.
there's not enough time.
So I just, I guess it's the luck of the draw. As I see some neighborhood comments that, gee, I've parked for a week and nobody said a word. I'm going, "Oh, okay, but lucky them, I suppose."
Yes.
Then my next question is, what about alleyways? Are they aggressive and enforcing the alleyway program of parking? Because I know I can walk down and see alleys, so well, that truck's there every night and that type of thing, and
Yes.
it's a
So
gray area, I guess. but-
So they are because it's still a part of the roadway and we have it, they cannot park in those alleys for more than 20 minutes. So they are enforcing that. What alleys they're on during the day and night, I can't say. We have recently, our traffic corporal has come up with a daily activity log that he's requesting from each of the officers at the end of their shift. So we can kind of track that more and see where the patterns are, where they are going. So if they're focusing on one area, maybe we need to make sure that they're focusing on the whole community, not just certain areas. So hopefully with this, it may seem like the cars that are getting missed every night. Hopefully this will help rectify that situation, because we'll be more aware of where they are focusing on each night, and we can steer them in directions that have bigger issues, which now, if we have our traffic, because our traffic corporal is in charge of them, and he's the one that handles, if anyone has any kind of traffic complaint or parking complaint, it's going to go through the traffic corporal. So he's their supervisor. So if there's issues, he can steer them to where the problems are. Unfortunately, unless we hear about the specific issues, we're not going to be able to guide them where they need to focus. And like you said, it's 177 miles to cover. You've got 2 officers. I mean, if one starts at one end and one starts at the other end, I don't know that they're ever going to get, if they're going to meet in the middle in that 2 hours. But like you said, with the alleys, that's all hours. So after the 2 hours are up, they can refocus onto other violations.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Karen, anything? Nope, Mendel?
2 things.
Okay.
Money again.
Yes.
So, the staff report says that the first year is higher than last year.
Yes.
So how much higher?
Oh. I don't know if I brought that.
And then my next question is, the staff report says that the cost of a living will be 6 and 4.
Yes.
I'm just curious why it's 6% in the second year and going down in the third year to 4. Do you have a crystal ball that the economy is going to do something that?
That was their proposal.
Oh, really?
That was their proposal. Originally, they wanted to include a lot of pass-through costs. They wanted to, okay, well, we're going to give you our gas, right? Because gas is going, I mean, it's
Yeah.
coming back down now, but when gas was over $5 an hour, they wanted to pass that cost through with us. And
Right.
we said, we can't do that.
Okay.
And I think this was the compromise. Okay, but we want a cost of living. And they came up with that 6% and 4%. And we said, okay, but we're not doing some of these pass-through costs that you can't plan for. I mean, who would have known gas was like $2 and now
right.
it's $5. So I think this was their compromise when
Okay.
we said no to the pass-through costs.
So so what was the increase from previous year? to
Previous.
this? Does anybody know that? Marie?
And I thought it is I was,
$200,000 in the
Yes.
last year.
okay.
The increase also because we have their staff also locking up gates at parks and restrooms. Originally, we had recreation aides doing that, but we felt it was safer to have intercon security do that on our behalf.
So they were 200,000, now it's 258.
And that includes extra services as well.
So it's 20%
We have that
increase.
Friday, Saturday shifts that
Yeah.
we didn't have before.
And
Yeah,
then break
we
it down.
we added hours and
Almost as expensive as our golden plated attorney here,
we actually, but
from last year to this year.
yeah, I think the important clarification is we actually added services and added hours.
Knew that was coming. It's only the first of the year.
It breaks down,
24 karat. Okay.
breaks down to just about $40 for 3 staff members.
Okay.
$40 an hour for the year for 3 staff members.
All right. I'm just curious. So thank you.
Well-
Good job. And I'm going to support this.
All right, thank you.
Michael?
Just really quick. Thank you, Julie. Where does the revenue go to? Does this go to general fund or does it go to the police department? Where does it go?
General fund.
General fund.
The police department's a general fund department. That's where it goes.
I didn't know if it went into their budget.
No. Well, it does theoretically. They're a general fund department, general fund revenues. Same.
Okay. It was mentioned several times that, you're doing the alleys and we all did the legislation or the ordinance about the alleys,
Mhm.
but it's not in the scope of work. Can we have that added in the scope of work?
So alleys are defined as a roadway?
Yes.
We had a
So,
discussion before. It'd be kind of nice.
We
to-
did, and it was defined as a roadway.
How hard is it to add that word?
I don't think we should add that word. It conflicts with the city's rules and ordinances on roadways and alleyways. So staff recommends against doing that.
The traffic corporal, as he talks to them and looks at the city, he could address that as part of their scope.
If you'd like us to
It need
come
to be
back
in
with an
writing.
update on alleyways, we'd be happy to do that on just general enforcement throughout, but we would advocate against the alleyway and just use the term roadway, which covers all of our streets and roads.
Sure.
Everybody's free to make a motion.
I'll move items
Well,
1 through 2.
How about, let me ask a question.
Huh.
And then let me ask for a motion. It says on my, everything that these guys worked on, it says, Garrett,
That's
ask
right. You're
for a
the,
motion.
that's right. You're the mayor, aren't you?
But I got a couple parking questions.
Yes.
So, first off, question about, or is Intercon involved in any way in parking enforcement situations like around the schools when schools letting out and we have people that are parking in various areas and sometimes around our sporting events? When people are parking in neighborhoods, does Intercom manage that as well?
Yes, yes, as long as they're on duty. We prefer our officers. I mean, they're assisting, but around schools, we prefer the officers there because the actual black and white slows people down and the presence does a little bit more than the parking patrol car does. But they do enforce it. They enforce it around schools. They enforce it around the sports fields. That is their, I mean, that's their main job. And that's the difference. That's the luxury of having the parking enforcement, is that's their job. That's their main job. Where police officers, they don't always have the time to do that parking enforcement because they're going to more urgent calls. So it's kind of a luxury to have this parking enforcement that they're strictly dedicated to that. So they can be at the schools, they can be at the fields when everyone's parking like crazy. So it's kind of
Appreciate it.
nice
Then
thing
another
to have.
question, does Intercon have the authority to tow cars?
They have to get a police officer out there.
Okay,
They can, so they will mark cars for 72 hours because you can't leave the car parked for 72 hours. So they will go out there and chalk tires and notify us. So when the 72 hours are up, they will go out there, make sure the car is still parked there, but an officer or community service officer will have to go down there and actually do the tow.
okay,
But they can keep track of those cars that need to be towed.
okay. I was thinking more in like an emergency situation. If we got somebody parked in an unsafe
We would get,
location on the street or something like that, they don't have the authority. It has to contact you
But-
guys.
yeah,
And
we would call
I'm
an
sure there's a
officer.
process in place that they will contact you. Okay, okay,
Yes.
that's it. Now, I would like to request a motion.
And I'll second it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I ask?
Can I get a
what
clarification on that? You want us to add alleys to the scope of work and in what regards? Do you want to make that? Okay.
Okay, we have a motion.
Huh?
on-
Well, I didn't know what it meant.
We have a motion and a second. Ask everyone to vote.
Yeah, just for clarification, it is the same thing. So we are clear. Staff recommends against it.
Wait, so let me take that back then. So you're asking for that to be included in the motion,
Yeah,
not just in the
that's why I said I
conversation?
didn't know what-
Oh,
what
well,
that
then I
meant.
withdraw my second because we don't need to add more verbiage.
David, you want to second that?
No, the contract does discuss roadways as including
Yes.
alleys.
It
And we
wasn't in the
defined
scope of work.
in our alley thing 8 months ago, the alleys are part of the city roadways.
Okay, so do I have a second
For what?
for your motion?
For your motion.
She withdrew her motion. So do you have a second?
Okay, so do I have another motion?
I would move that we approve items 1 and 2 as shown on the PowerPoint,
And I'll second that motion.
recommended by staff
Okay,
and the police.
so this one was by Thompson and Davis. I will now conduct an oral call vote. Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Frindall,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
and Mayor Boyer.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, almost had it. Moving on, item number 16, approve the inter-utility service and co-funding agreement with Southern California Gas Company for performing water efficiency installation services as part of the water conservation program in an amount not to exceed $250,000. Who do I have? Russell Ackerman.
Yes.
Welcome,
hello.
Russ.
Good evening, honorable mayor and council members. I guess I should start by saying my wife is a diehard Michigan fan. So I'm not wearing purple tonight or anytime in the near future.
Sorry about that.
As a diehard Buckeye, I'm not sure I can hear this presentation.
Uh-oh. Said my wife is the fan.
Oh,
His wife is- Tonight, the city's water conservation section is asking the council to consider entering into an inter-utility service and co-funding agreement with Southern California Gas Company and the city of Glendora. The city of Glendora Water Division is always looking for ways to offer residential water customers more comprehensive and efficient programs while meeting our annual water conservation goals. One way to do this is by leveraging successful programs provided by other utilities. This inter-utility partnership with SoCal Gas will create what's called a stacked incentive that offers both additional water and energy savings through existing SoCal Gas programs and expands resources to achieve water conservation goals. SoCal Gas will administer the program and the installation vendors, Global Energy Services, Inc., on behalf of the city. This will give residents an opportunity to participate in a resource efficiency program that includes the direct installation of natural gas saving and hot and cold water saving fixtures. Next slide, please. SoCal Gas provides energy efficient related services to its customers throughout Southern California, including direct installations of energy and water saving measures at customers' homes. There's a significant amount of energy that's embedded in our water infrastructure, but in simplified terms, using less hot water uses less energy to heat it. So saving water saves energy. SoCal Gas has partnered with Metropolitan Water District and West Basin Municipal Water District to create a new kind of program that's not just centered on gas and hot water saving fixtures, but also includes cold water saving fixtures like water efficient toilets and smart irrigation controllers. Next slide, please. So our agreement with them is patterned after these other water suppliers. We will be offering the direct installation of up to 2 high efficiency toilets. We have toilet leak detection. We've got aerators for both the kitchen and the bathroom and water efficient shower heads. There will be, of course, parameters. You have to have a certain existing toilet in order to get a retrofit of 1.6 or higher. We're also going to be offering smart irrigation controllers and smart hose bib controllers for those that hand water. Next slide, please. Funding will come from the Water Capital Improvement Program and will not exceed $250,000 over the 18-month agreement. Next slide, please. This is the price sheet that we will be billed at from SoCal Gas. By partnering with SoCal Gas, we can create a more cost-effective direct installation program for our residential customers. Next slide, please. SoCal Gas has other programs that residents and property owners can take advantage of as well. For example, if you're looking to upgrade your clothes washer, you can visit the SoCal Gas Marketplace, and you may find one that qualifies for both the city's water efficiency device rebate as well as a gas rebate. There's other programs for almost every other sector that can help you save energy and water. And you can find links to these programs on our website. We also have a representative from SoCal Gas here if you have any questions regarding this agreement or their programs. Next slide, please. So staff recommends that council authorize and approve this inter-utility service and co-funding agreement with SoCal Gas Company for the direct installation of water efficiency devices as part of a cooperative gas and water efficiency program in an amount not to exceed $250,000. That concludes my presentation. Have any questions, please?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Bring it back to council. Any questions? No, Michael?
Just one question. How did the gas company get involved with water?
Well, Gustavo, would you like to? Gustavo Sevilla from SoCal Gas is here and could maybe perhaps answer that better.
I guess first he has to answer what football league he likes best.
No affiliation.
Smart man.
Realistically, it started off a partnership with, Metropolitan Water District. We kind of did LDVP, Metropolitan Water District. As a need that we found that, we are kind of in these communities doing work for various programs, CARE, ESAP. And it was determined that we could kind of leverage our being in the vicinity in people's homes, doing these energy efficiency and or insulation work, stuff like that. And so we had conversations with water agencies and they decided, hey, it's beneficial for both parties to go ahead and come into an agreement to do shower heads, aerators, then it moved to toilets, irrigation now. And, we're kind of doing different things with different partners. In some cases, some of them don't want to do any water. They want to do other measures. And so that's kind of where we started the whole process. We do have other contracts, but this one specifically for water.
You have a lot of cities that take advantage of this.
The ones that are larger, they do, because we span pretty much such a large territory in the state of California, that, it's just easier to work with us because we're in people's homes. People trust SoCal Gas. They've worked with various programs with us in the past, and so they know that we can deliver, and we're always there.
Who reached out to who? Did we reach out to you? Or did you reach out to us?
Well, we kind of showed up in different meetings, right? And we participate in various meetings with water agencies throughout the state of California. So, handshaking is usually how we get started.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
He said that was a different department.
Okay, well, if
There-
there's no other question, oh, David. sorry.
I'd like to applaud our water conservation group and the proactive thinking to recognize and let the residents realize that we now have a third available service, our own water conservation team, the team that we've contracted earlier or later last year to help supplement that, and now the partnership with the gas company. So our residents have three resources to go to figure out how to improve their water consumption. And even though it's rained 4 inches today, the drought's not over, so.
Right.
Congratulations, thank you for that forward thinking to keep us in the front line of trying to do our best. And I think what our conservation goal, we exceeded 27% in the last month, so no city, don't turn on the water, but it's a good job, so thank you.
Thank you very much. We'd like to thank the community for stepping up as well. And for council keeping water conservation on the forefront of every meeting, bringing it up over these last months. So we appreciate all the work that's being done within this community to save water.
I just wanted to clarify. And so the program for this is specifically for residential customers only,
That's correct.
just in case any businesses ask. Thanks.
I would just add one piece, saving water helps save energy costs and heating some of the water, so that's how SoCal Gas is involved a lot of the time too. Some people water with hot water. No, I'm kidding.
Won't let it go.
Okay. Now I am requesting a motion.
Also move.
Okay, thank you, David.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by David, a second by Mendel. Everyone, please vote.
We'll conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freedom,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Russell. Next up, we've got a contract agreement with Myers Houghton and Partners, Inc. for the library structural analysis and options for vertical expansion project. Michael Sled, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As mentioned tonight, I'll be presenting on awarding a contract to Myers Houghton and Partners Incorporated for in-depth library structural analysis and long-term future assessment. Next slide, please. So for a little bit of background, construction of the library was completed in 1972, and the Bidwell Plaza also acts as the majority of the main floor's roof. Issues have existed with this setup essentially from the beginning of its history, as far as we can tell. I found Library Commission reports from 1978 that reference ongoing repairs at that time, and that leaks were better at that time after repairs that had been taking place then. So less than a decade after its completion, it was already having issues with water infiltration. The most recent major exterior renovations included resurfacing of the plaza in an attempt to address these issues, along with reinforcement of the main floor support columns and north side load bearing wall to comply with the seismic code at that time. To help visualize the extent of this in context of the fact that issues with leaking and cracking continue, we have a series of pictures of the work that was performed during this last renovation in 2004. Next slide, please. So here you can see the north side wall and support columns after reinforcements with metal rods in that main column there. You can see the little dots where they were cut off. And then you can see carbon fiber mesh wrapping that was put on the concrete there. Next slide, please. These show the sort of main large columns that were reinforced in the interior of the library. They created a sort of lattice of metal rods and then poured concrete around those. Next slide, please. On the right here, you can see what the plaza previously looked like, including it used to have small trees planted in it. And then on the left, you can see the beginning of when they were moving that plaza upper surface. Next slide, please. This is after they've exposed the subsurface of the plaza. You can see all the equipment there. During this, there was actually a hole punched from the plaza or through to the ceiling of the library inside, knocked out a light, broke all the way through. You can see all the way through. So it's a pretty thin surface. Next slide, please. Here you can see the bases of the existing pergolas that were installed as part of this project, along with the conduit to the outlets there. Next slide, please. Along with epoxy ejections to address cracks, they then installed a waterproofing layer and then a layer of insulation. Next slide, please. And then a top layer of concrete. Next slide. And finally, the existing amenities that are there now. Next slide, please. So despite these efforts, issues continue with leaks, and a project was created during the most recent previous 2-year budget process to renovate the Bidwell Plaza and weatherproof the overall library structure. As part of this, one of the things being considered was a potential shade structure, which would also in theory help divert water from the plaza surface. However, during preliminary design site visit to review this option, various cracks are identified in the structure of the library, and a change order was made to conduct a preliminary assessment of the overall structural integrity. Here you can see some of the cracks in the beams in the ceiling. Next slide, please. And then here you can see continued leakage issues around cracks that had previously been repaired in 2004. So based on this preliminary assessment, a more in-depth evaluation of the library structure was recommended, including materials testing. Given the likely cost of repairs and other known substantial renovation needs, including HVAC, all the interior, pretty much everything is almost original. It was determined it would be more prudent to not only assess the building structure, but also evaluate the building more completely with regard to its long-term future and the relative cost of different repair, renovation, and reconstruction options. Next slide, please. So in light of this, staff conducted an RFP for these services. A pre-submittal job walk was conducted with 12 firms, and ultimately 5 proposals were submitted. Proposals were reviewed by library and public works staff, and interviews were conducted with the submitting firms. Based on the review, staff recommends Myers, Houghton, and Partners, and their proposal is best meeting the city's needs based on the holistic nature of the assessment of the building. Next slide, please. Here you can see, it's a little small, but the proposal cost summary and draft work plan summary. Deliverables will include a structural analysis with material testing and geotechnical report, conceptual plans for building additions and repairs / modifications to the existing building, cost estimates for construction of a brand new library, mapping of existing space utilization, and a building code assessment. City staff will provide intermediate updates to City Council as deliverables are received or significant new information comes to light. Next slide, please. Here you can see the fiscal impacts of the assessment, including a 10% project contingency and additional appropriation of $88,650.81 from the Capital Projects Fund 321 reserve will be needed. Next slide, please. And so that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to take your questions. We also have representatives from the consultants here if you'll have more in-depth questions about what the study will entail.
Yeah, appreciate it, Michael. Bring it back. Any questions? Michael?
Thank you, Michael, for your presentation. Is the original contractor still in business?
That built it, that did the resurfacing?
Correct.
I think when I searched it, I did not find evidence that they're in business. I think they're out of business, but we could look into it.
Is there any warranty attached to this?
I think we'd well exceed any of those warranties, but this becomes an issue. It just, there's not just leaks from this, leaks in the towers, leaks in other areas. This isn't just a one leak show.
Well, we don't know where they're coming from. Do we have any mold issues?
Not so far. Last year during a leak, we had mold testing come in and done on the building and there was nothing detected. So,
All right,
but most of it goes into buckets. So.
all right. Thank you for that. No other questions.
Anybody else? I do have one question. You sort of brushed over the analysis. Did I see that there's going to be a report on a new library?
That's gonna be part of it, is estimating costs for something similar to the library in size. Yes.
Okay, so do we know how in-depth that report will be? I mean, is that looking at various sites? Is that looking at demoing where we currently are?
So probably size and scope of a different library, average building costs in a specific area. I don't have the details in front of me, but it was a generalized idea on how building a new library would compare to any sort of significant rehab on the existing site. And so I think that's the first step in our evaluation and saying, hey, if we need to make some fixes, what's the total cost to get what we have? What's the total cost to have something that's addressing a number of issues? And then, hey, if those are high, what is the cost of a new library? But no, I don't think it'll address this side or that side. It'll just be sort of generalized cost to help us provide a comparison to the task at hand.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Yep.
I know that there's a lot of funds out there for grants. Is this the first step for us to walk that pathway to possibly get some of those grants? Some of the cities around us have gotten some pretty large grants.
I think the city of Palm Springs received several $1 million in a
So
grant.
I'm
This is
to know that.
not necessarily the very first step, but one of the more important steps to
Okay.
get a more comprehensive analysis. As was indicated tonight, we've done some previous sort of review. Janet's done a wonderful job providing us an update from the state on what the grant process is and what's out there and the next steps, and
Right.
even inquiring with other cities what they provided for that grant
Right.
process. So an expensive endeavor potentially one way or the other, but this is a necessary step towards sort
Okay.
of telling that greater story. We scratched the surface. Now we're hoping to scratch a little bit deeper.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'll move items 1 through 3.
second.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Michael, a second by Mendel. Everybody would vote.
Going to conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Ellis?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Boyer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And Janet, our goal is to have one day you be able to work inside the library without an umbrella. Okay. We will get there. Okay, I believe that is our last item. Closing statements? Anybody?
I'd like to ask that we get a update report on the status of our current roadway alley parking and stuff storage ordinance and its success or progress and timetable of when those be successful, whatever that.
They're called
makes sense.
roadways, not alleys.
I said roadway / alley, so there you go.
Just for clarity, are you looking for where we are in the process of enforcing it or what successes we've had?
Enforcing and expectations for full compliance.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Nope, that's it. Adam, nothing. Bill? Okay, we are done then. At that point, I will adjourn our meeting at 9:55.